full 423 verses of the Dhammapada, the complete Decoding the Book of Awakening for humanity. If today the Buddha were still alive, what would he say to us amid the countless concerns of our era? The answer may lie within each of the short verses he left more than 2,000 years ago. Here you can hear again the Buddha's original teachings through each verse of the Dhammapada. The Dhammapada is one of the most important scriptures of the Pali Canon, belonging to the Khaddaka Nikaya. Sages have called it the Holy Book of Buddhism. Each verse is only a few lines long, yet contains the essence of timeless wisdom. The Buddha spoke these verses in 300 different teaching situations over 45 years. After his passing, his great disciples compiled them into 423 verses divided into 26 chapters, preserved through the centuries. When we recite the Dhammapada, it feels as though we hear the compassionate, awakening voice of the Buddha echoing from the past. Every verse, every word, is not just language but a key that opens the door to our inner life. If you, too, are on the path to finding peace amid life's turbulence, let us enter the Dhammapada together. Here, each verse is a torch lighting the way back to ourselves. Begin with Chapter 1, twin verses with 3 layers of listening. 1. Hear the Buddha's original words. 2. Understand each meaning deeply. 3. Reflect on yourself through concrete examples. 1. Mind is the forerunner of all states. Mind is their chief and creates them. If with an impure mind one speaks or acts, suffering follows one like the wheel that follows the foot of the ox. Mind and intention are the starting points where everything arises. Every word we speak and every deed we do comes from the mind. It is not circumstances or other people, but our own first thought that determines the outcome. If that thought is full of anger, envy, or selfishness, then even actions that seem justified will carry suffering. That suffering is not given by anyone else, but is the fruit of the seeds sown by our own intention. It is like the cartwheel that follows the ox without any extra push. Once you felt jealousy towards someone and spoke of them harshly. At first you thought it was harmless joking, but afterward you felt uneasy and heavy. That was the wheel of karma beginning to roll. 2. Mind is the forerunner of all states. Mind is their chief and creates them. If with a pure mind one speaks or acts, happiness follows one like a never-departing shadow. If the mind is clear, words spring from sincerity, and actions flow from compassion, then happiness follows as surely as a shadow follows form. Joy is never far when one does good. The moment you speak a kind word, you feel your heart soften. You may help a stranger by giving up your seat or steadying them when they stumble. No one knows and no one praises you, yet your mind shines with peace. 3. He insults me. He strikes me. He overpowers me. He robs me. Those who harbor such hatred will never be free from anger. When someone insults or strikes you, when they defeat you or take what is yours, if you hold on to resentment, hatred cannot die. Resentment grows when you keep replaying the hurt, when you seek revenge. Think of a time you were wronged. You told the story again, and every retelling fueled your anger. In the end, only you suffered sleepless nights. 4. He insults me. He strikes me. He overpowers me. He robs me. Those who do not harbor hatred will surely be free from anger. If you let go, if you stop rehashing old wounds and abandon plans for revenge, the fire of hatred will die out. It is not because someone apologized, but because you chose to release your bitterness. You may have been misunderstood and wanted to explain yourself, but the more you tried to justify, the more tangled you became. When you finally fell silent, you found an unexpected peace. 5. Health is the greatest gain. Contentment is the greatest wealth. A trustworthy friend is the best relative. Nirvana is the highest happiness. Those who focus only on outward appearance yet fail to guard the 6 senses, who lack restraint in eating and remain lazy in practice, are like weak saplings in the wind. They cannot withstand the storms of temptation and inner turmoil. Such people may robe themselves in monastic cloth and chant scriptures, yet on the street they lose their temper at any slight. They rejoice in praise and collapse under criticism. They have not mastered themselves and cannot face the demons within. 6. Health is the greatest gain. Contentment is the greatest wealth. A trustworthy friend is the best relative. Nirvana is the highest happiness. Those who perceive the impurity of the body, who vigilantly guard eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and mind, who eat moderately, hold steadfast faith and practice diligently, stand firm like a mountain against any gale. They remain unmoved by praise or blame, by hardship or joy. Such a one has deep roots and cannot be shaken by any inner or outer force. 7. One who wears the yellow robe, yet whose mind is not free from defilement, who does not practice self-restraint and truthfulness, is not worthy of the monk's robe. To don the robe but remain mired in greed, hatred, and delusion, lacking self-control and genuine practice, is to wear a healer's garment without knowing how to heal. 8. One who has abandoned defilement, who observes precepts strictly and practices restraint and truthfulness, is worthy of the monk's robe. Such a person truly embodies the robe. They have removed every stain from the mind. They keep the precepts with care, restrain body and speech, and live with honesty and purity. Only they deserve to sit in the Buddha's seat. 9. Real is what is false. False is what is real. Those deluded by wrong thought and action mistake the false for the real. Through wrong views and wrongful deeds, some mistake what is untrue for truth. They believe illusions and miss the living reality. 10. Real is what is real. False is what is false. Those who avoid wrong thought and action know what is real and what is not. Through right view and right action, the wise recognize truth and reject falsehood. They follow the path of mindfulness and touch the living Dharma. In that way they gain clarity like a discerning buyer who distinguishes real gold from fool's gold. 11. Just as a leaky roof soon lets in the rain, so an unguarded mind soon lets in passion. One who fails to practice and maintain vigilance is like a house with holes in its roof. The storms of desire, anger, and envy pour in through every crack. A person who indulges in pleasure without checking their mind becomes restless at the slightest provocation and suffers needless pain when circumstances do not match their wishes. 12. Like a well-thatched roof through which rain cannot penetrate, so too a mind well-trained cannot be invaded by craving. One who knows how to practice and guards the mind as carefully as a roof masterfully built remains steadfast even in a sudden downpour. By daily meditating and observing the mind, when offended they breathe softly and watch anger rise without letting it in, maintaining peace like a sturdy house under heavy rain. 13. Today the sorrow of an evildoer brings sorrow hereafter. For 2 lives they suffer endless anguish. Whoever lives by evil deeds experiences suffering immediately and carries that pain beyond death. Looking back on their life, they are filled with regret and torment. It is like someone who stole to become rich yet sleeps no more. Each sound awakens fear. At life's end, they dare not face their conscience or confess that remorse even to their children, haunted by it even in dreams. 14. Today one rejoices and tomorrow one rejoices. Doing good brings joy in both lives. One who sees pure karma and lives virtuously has joy here and now, and at death carries a calm mind. Reflecting on the past, they smile. Thinking of the future, they are without fear. It is like someone who quietly helps many poor without ever seeking credit. Each night before sleep, they smile at ease. At life's end, they are like a lamp that burned fully and went out in serenity. 15. Today one laments and tomorrow one laments. The evildoer laments in both lives. By doing harm, they create suffering both now and beyond. They mourn not only in life, but endure double grief after death, telling themselves, I have done wrong and sown bad karma. That result is hard to escape, like someone who kills for amusement. In old age beset by illness and unrest, even great wealth cannot buy peaceful sleep. Remorse comes too late, and they know they are paying the price. 16. Today one is blessed, and tomorrow one is blessed. Doing good brings blessing in both lives. A virtuous person enjoys peace and joy in life, and is reborn in good realms after death. They understand clearly the goodness they have done and rest assured that all is well. Like someone who lives simply and speaks kindly each day, whose friends rally to help in hardship. At departure, they are fondly remembered. Such merit extends beyond this lifetime into the next. 17. Whoever speaks many scriptures without practicing them clings to teachings like a hired coward. The cow grows fat, but the milk and benefits belong to another. One who recites many sutras, yet fails to refine the self, is like someone tending another's herd. Even if their sermons are eloquent, if they live selfishly with anger and envy, they do not truly reap the fruits of the path. They only speak for others. 18. Whoever speaks little, yet practices the Dharma, adapts to the teachings, abandons greed, hatred, and delusion, attains clear liberation, and does not cling to any life, truly partakes in the monastic way. Conversely, even a person of few words who lives according to right principles, abandons evil thoughts, and maintains mindfulness is a true renunciant. They are free from attachment to this life or the next. Like a humble person who quietly meditates, upholds precepts, knows how to let go, and remains aware, their life testifies more loudly than 1,000 sermons. Here the Dhammapada guides us into a new chapter that delves deeper into the nature of impulsive grasping and mindfulness. When one lives carelessly without guarding the mind, they drift into the whirlpool of suffering. But if they learn to return and to pause at the right moment, the path to liberation begins to unfold. 21. Not acting on impulse is the path of life. Acting on impulse is the path of death. Without ceasing, there is no end. Impulse is like a living death. One who guards the mind and remains mindful is truly alive, whereas one who lives carelessly, chasing after sense pleasures without self-control, though still breathing, is as good as dead. You have seen people lost in their phones, in drink, in entertainment, in competition, yet beneath the laughter their hearts may be empty. 22. Understanding that distinction, the wise do not grasp after joy nor cling to pleasure. They walk the path of the noble ones. The wise discern the difference between wakefulness and delusion, between living rightly and living recklessly. Therefore they do not dare to be careless in any word, thought, or deed, for they know a single moment of negligence can lose a lifetime. You have seen someone sitting in perfect stillness, speaking little, yet every word shines because their mind is fully awake. 23. Those who constantly practice meditation persist with unwavering effort toward the supreme goal, nirvana, the highest peace. One who maintains steadfastness without succumbing to emotions or laxity in practice will gradually enter profound stillness. This stillness arises not from force, but from mindfulness. Have you seen someone each morning sitting quietly, not in haste, not scrolling through social media, not gulping coffee, just sitting, breathing, and keeping the mind free of distractions? 24. Striving to maintain mindfulness, purity of conduct, careful self-regulation, and living in harmony with the Dharma increases one's good reputation each day. There is no need for acknowledgement or proof. Merely guarding the mind against being lost, deluded, or drifting is enough for a good name to grow. You have seen someone living quietly yet universally respected, not for their speech, but for their integrity in life. 25. Striving not to act impulsively skillfully guides the wise to build an island. Floodwaters cannot overwhelm it. The mindful person is like one who constructs a high island amid the world's raging floods. Waves rise and fall, yet they remain firm. Have you seen someone in the midst of a storm who stands unmoved? They do not panic when others do, for they have their own ground in the heart. 26. The foolish, ignorant, and without wisdom live impulsively. The wise do not. They protect their treasure of mindfulness. The foolish, unaware of the consequences of their actions, indulge in fleeting pleasures and allow life to drift uncontrolled. The wise guard mindfulness, cherishing each moment like a priceless gem. Like someone holding a precious stone in a crowded market, they move slowly and securely so none can seize it. Likewise, the wise safeguard their mind from impulsive grasping, knowing that one instant of mindfulness is worth more than 1,000 years of delusion. 27. Do not live on impulse or drown in sensual pleasures. By not acting impulsively, meditation brings great peace. The Buddha advises not to let go and chase after worldly enjoyments, for such happiness is fleeting and often leads to consequences. Choose to live mindfully, focus on meditation, and one finds deep, lasting peace, free from the ebb and flow of arising and passing joys and sorrows. Like someone parched in the desert who drinks brackish water and finds thirst only worsened, but who stops and seeks a pure spring, they gain relief. Meditation is that pure spring nourishing body and mind. 28. The wise abandon impulsive striving, cultivating non-impulsivity, and ascend the steps of wisdom. Free from sorrow through understanding suffering, the wise stand on a mountain peak and look down upon the foolish in the plain. Having renounced carelessness, they climb the stairway of awakening and from above perceive life with clear vision. They live in the world, yet their minds are no longer swept away, like those who reach a summit and gaze at the crowds below, untouched by the turmoil of the valley. 29. Be diligent amid heedlessness, mindful amid the confused multitude. The wise are like swift horses leaving slow ones behind. Even if everyone around lives in indulgence, the wise maintain steadfast effort. Though surrounded by delusion, they remain clear-sighted like a racing horse outpacing its sluggish peers. The wise will advance far, while the heedless spend their days in pleasure and drinking with friends. These keep a wholesome routine, reading and meditating daily. After a few years, they surpass others in both wisdom and life, without needing to compete. 30. Indra said, "One who is not heedless attains the position of Lord of the Devas. One who is not heedless is praised, the heedless are reproached." The Buddha cited Indra, a heavenly ruler, as an example. Because he did not live in indulgence, he was revered. A diligent person wins universal respect. The heedless sooner or later face criticism. It is like a leader of a group. If they model moral conduct, they gain admiration. If they indulge in pleasure, they lose the trust of others, despite their power. 31. Delight in not being heedless. The monk dreads heedlessness. Each step forward blazes like a great fire that consumes all defilements, large and small. A true monk loves mindfulness and remains cautious with every thought. Even a slight lapse prompts vigilance. Living with that spirit, one's practice becomes like a mighty fire that burns away both coarse and subtle stains. Like a diligent gardener, they pull up not only great weeds, but also each tiny blade of grass. Thus their garden stays clean and beautiful, free of harmful growth. 32. Delight in not being heedless. The monk fears heedlessness. Cannot be led astray, one draws near to nirvana. Those who have mastered an undistracted mind and preserve mindfulness will not regress on the path. That path only leads onward. Such a person is surely very close to nirvana. As if they have crossed a great river and set foot on firm land, they no longer fear the rushing waters behind, needing only a few more steps to reach the shore of liberation. 33. A startled, unsettled mind is hard to guard and even harder to tame. The wise straighten the mind like an arrow maker fashions arrows. The mind is swifter than wind, more unruly than a horse, more hidden than darkness. To keep it still requires wisdom, not force. The wise do not force the mind, but shape it like one bending a bow or smoothing the arrowhead. You have tried to stop anger. You found it did not cease by shouting, but by breathing and looking deeply within. 34. Like a fish flapping on land, this mind struggles fiercely. Cut off the power of Mara. When the mind is dragged from the shore of calm, it thrashes like a fish out of water, chasing desire, fear, and craving. To overcome Mara, no external battle is needed. Simply keep the mind from thrashing. You once had a day when your mind was in turmoil, dragged by every thought and worry. Yet when you simply sat and breathed, saying, "Mind, cease," the mind ceased. 35. Difficult to hold. It is carried away by spinning desires. Instead of striving to control the mind, let the mind rest in peace. For the mind chases every temptation, a phone's ring, a glance, a criticism, a wish. If you do not guard the mind, you drift through life unaware. But if you calm the mind, you gain not only peace but freedom. You noticed your mind racing while waiting for a message, imagining 100 scenarios. Yet when you returned to your breath, you saw there was nothing but the mind's projections. 36. The mind is hard to see, subtle, carried away by spinning desires. The wise guard the mind guards peace. The mind is invisible, formless, untouchable, yet it directs all words, deeds, and actions. Only the wise observe, guard, and nourish it, preventing it from drifting with craving. You once noticed anger rising, but you recognized it and halted it. You kept the mind as one cares for a child, and the anger dissolved as if it had never been. 37. Flee afar, live alone without companions, hide deep in a cave. Who controls the mind and escapes the chains of Mara? The mind is not bound to anyone or anything, yet if uncontrolled it is a shackle. Master the mind and you are free from any force, be it Mara, desire, or karma. You once fell into a harmful habit you knew was bad, yet kept repeating it. Only when you dared to look straight at it and asked, what does this mind really need? Did you break that invisible bond? 38. Whoever lacks inner refuge, unaware of the subtle Dhamma, shaken even by pure faith, fails to perfect wisdom. One without inner support is easily swayed. Hearing something that sounds good, they believe it. Facing the unexpected, they feel deceived. Without right view, faith, however fine, remains fragile. Without concentration and wisdom, even virtuous qualities cannot mature. You once practiced diligently for a time, but then grew lazy, discouraged, and gave up, because the mind had no resting place within. 39. A mind not filled with craving, free from hatred, cuts off all good and evil. The awakened one fears nothing when the mind no longer craves, no longer burns with anger, no longer seeks good for reward, or commits evil out of loss of control. Such a mind is liberated. This person no longer fears death, defeat, or loss, for there is no self to defend. You once let go of a firmly held attachment and then felt as light as the wind. 40. Know the body as brittle clay, watch the mind as a fortress. Only fight Mara with the sword of wisdom, defend victory. This body is fragile like an earthen pot, fleeting like a breath. Yet if you guard the mind as one defends a citadel, wielding wisdom as a sword and mindfulness as armor, Mara cannot breach your defenses. You once lost control when someone touched your deepest fear. But when you used wisdom, you saw they were merely a pretext. That sword of wisdom protected you. 41. Before long this body will lie still on the ground, discarded like a useless log. This body we mistake for self will one day lie lifeless, without awareness or name. Whoever still clings to this body as I will suffer upon seeing its decay. You once witnessed a loved one's passing. The body remained, yet the person was gone. And you understood that your true self was never this body. 42. An enemy who harms, an enemy by fate, is not as harmful as a mind bent toward evil. No one can harm you more than your own distorted mind. Not your foes, but your own nourishing of anger and delusion. When you indulge desire, the mind's evil tendencies swing open the door for all suffering. You once harmed yourself because you failed to guard the mind for a single moment. 43. What parents or relatives cannot do, a mind with right direction can achieve, even surpass, with goodness. No one else can guard or discipline your mind, however dear they may be. Only when your mind turns toward what is right do you open the path out of suffering. You once appreciated a piece of advice, but only when you decided and maintained it yourself did true transformation begin. The virtue of mind is one of the deepest qualities, for all others arise from it. Whoever guards the mind guards their own karma. Whoever masters the mind transcends suffering. And that path begins in this very moment. The moment you notice where your mind has wandered and smile. Ah, I see you. Mind, now return. 44. Who conquers the realm of demon land and heavenly realms? Who can skillfully expound the Dhammapada like one adept at picking flowers? The Buddha posed this question. Who is capable of transcending this world, of overcoming both the demon land of death and the heaven of sensual pleasure? Who can elucidate profound truth as deftly as someone who knows how to select the perfect blossom in a forest of flowers? Such a person is not one who merely learns many words, but one who knows how to choose rightly, see rightly, and speak rightly. They are not deluded by outward appearances or titles. They look deep into the core. Yet the flower picker does not pluck any branch at random, but discerns blooms that have opened at just the right moment. 45. Those in training conquer the demon land and heavenly realms. Those in training expound the Dhammapada like a skilled picker of blossoms. A person on the path of practice, cultivating moral discipline, concentration, and wisdom, is called a trainee. Day by day they overcome the fetters of the world, of death, and even of heavenly sensual delights. Only they can speak the Buddha's words from a heart that has tasted the truth, with eyes that have seen reality. As an apprentice herbalist may not yet be a master physician, but already knows how to distinguish each leaf, each flower, each scent, and can heal others, so too the trainee, though not yet an arahant, gradually lights the way. 46. Know the body is fragile as a bubble. Realize the body is an illusion. Break the demon's bow. Transcend the 8 faces of death. This body is as inconsistent as a soap bubble. It rises and then bursts like a mirage in the sun, like smoke at day's end. Whoever sees the body as unreal, illusory, and temporary will no longer be deceived. All the enchanting blossoms the demon conjures, sensual pleasure, fame, profit, will no longer bind that person. They rise above self-centered views. Having awoken from the dream, they are no longer swept along by its illusions, for they know it is but a dream, and thus have no fear or craving. 47. Those who gather all kinds of flowers, their minds intoxicated with craving, are swept away by death like a flood that is sleeping. Those lost in form, in status, in sensual pleasures wander like someone lost in a flower forest, unaware that night has fallen. They are so absorbed in picking blossoms they do not see the flood is coming. Death arrives unannounced like a deluge that sweeps away an entire village in slumber. No one escapes. Like a youth who imagines they have plenty of time to practice, they live in the illusion of a distant death, but death gives no warning. 48. Those who gather flowers, still addicted to craving the unsatisfied pleasures, are claimed by death. That is defeat. One who chases sensual delight is like a flower picker never satisfied. One blossom is lovely but lacks fragrance. Another is fragrant but wilts too soon. They desire more, ever more, until life's thread is cut, and still they remain unfulfilled. It is like a swimmer venturing far into the ocean, believing they can swim on indefinitely, only to find themselves suddenly exhausted, sinking while their dream remains unfinished. 49. Like the bee that comes to the flower, harming neither color nor scent, shielding the blossom while gathering nectar, so enters the saint into the village. The wise, the enlightened, are like that deft bee. They engage with the world without causing harm. They do not trample the flowers, nor exhaust their nectar, nor destroy their roots. They take only what is needed gently, then move on. Likewise, the saint lives in the world without disturbing others' lives. They dwell in peace and mindfulness like a silent fragrance. 50. One should not scrutinize others' faults or deeds, but reflect on one's own actions or inactions. The practitioner is not one who criticizes or seeks faults in others, but one who constantly examines themselves. What have I done? Have I been honest, loving, detached? Like someone who polishes a mirror, they do not blame the mirror's tarnish, but quietly clean it themselves, until everything is seen clearly. 51. Like a beautiful flower without fragrance, so too is eloquent speech without action or result. Fair words without deeds are like blossoms with color but no scent. They please the eye but offer no lasting value. Similarly, one who only preaches without embodying their words, however skillfully spoken, lacks profound worth. 52. Like a blossom that bears both color and fragrance, so too is speech that is paired with action and yields results. This is true perfection, both beautiful and fragrant, speaking rightly and living rightly. Like the lotus that not only displays its color but fills the air with pure scent, such a person draws others by their very presence, for they embody the Dhamma rather than merely speaking of it. 53. From one pile of flowers one can make many garlands. So too, from one lifetime one can perform countless acts of goodness. Though life is impermanent, it is nevertheless a field for countless wholesome deeds. Like an expert weaver who fashions many beautiful garlands from a single bunch of flowers, the skillful practitioner transforms each day into an act of practice, a compassionate glance, a gentle word, a helpful deed, each a garland woven by the hand of the heart. 54. Floral scents drift only with the wind, but the fragrance of virtue travels against the breeze to fill every direction. Only the truly noble radiate everywhere. Material scents are limited, carried only downwind, but the fragrance of integrity and wholesome mind transcends all space. touching the hearts of even strangers. A virtuous person, though silent, inspires trust, affection, and emulation. This is the power of inner goodness. 55. The Buddha's teaching is likened to the noble flower of the ghee that the celestial beings cherish, a fragrance not found in ordinary plants, but born of moral virtue. Among all scents, the most precious is not in flowers or herbs, but in preserving precepts, purity, and righteousness. Morality is the foundation of every path, an invisible fragrance that refreshes every heart that draws near. 56. How rare and precious this fragrance! Even the most exquisite scents of heaven vanish within the human realm, yet the scent of virtue uplifts the entire cosmos. Celestial beings bow before those who live rightly, kindly, and with a mind free of craving. 57. But who, having kept the precepts, dwells without indulgence, shielded from mental defilement and free from the demon's snares? One who possesses morality, concentration, and wisdom has already set foot on an untrodden path beyond the reach of others. They abide in the light of their own realization, undaunted, unshaken, unreceptive to temptation, like one who walks on clouds, leaving no trace in the world. 58. Even amid heaps of filth discarded by the roadside, the lotus blossoms in purity and beauty. From the very mud of life's struggles can arise a spotless flower. Though life may offer many troubles and bindings, they cannot restrain one who truly practices. Like an orphan raised without love, yet growing into kindness and compassion, one blooms amidst refuse without absorbing its stench. 59. Likewise, amid the throng of ordinary people, disciples of the enlightened one shine forth with wisdom. The Buddha said, "In a world full of confusion, there are those who are awake, those who follow my teaching, guard the mind, and practice meditation each day, growing ever brighter in understanding. They are lotuses in the mud, flames in the night, the very presence of the Dhamma in the world." Thus, from water bubbles to lotuses, from death to the path that overcomes demons, the chapter on blossoms is a journey rich in imagery and metaphor about practice. One may live in the world without belonging to it, pick flowers without attachment, and radiate fragrance without uttering a word. Now turn to the next chapter, The Fools, to see more clearly what to avoid and what to abandon so as not to stray from the path of awakening. 60. Long is the night for those who are awake, and the road is long for those who grow weary. A fool does not recognize the ineffable Dhamma and knows nothing of the teaching. Like one lost in a dark forest without light or direction, life for them is a very long, very tiring, very dark journey with no clear path home. You may have lived through a time when you did not understand why you lived, merely repeating work, eating, and sleep, and found time itself exhausting because you had no direction. 61. If you cannot find companions wiser than or equal to yourself, it is better to live alone than in bad company. A fool should not be counted a companion. Walking with those who do not understand the Dhamma is not practice, but a barter of mindfulness for ignorance. You may have stayed reluctantly in a relationship that did not nourish your wholesome mind and discovered that solitude can bring clarity. 62. My child is mine, my property is mine, says the fool in distress. Fools live under the illusion of ownership, believing that children, possessions, or even the body belong to them. Yet at death nothing can be taken, not even the body. You may have witnessed someone who, out of greed for their child or their possessions, harms others for things that cannot be carried beyond this life. 63. The fool who knows he is a fool may begin to gain wisdom, but the fool who believes himself wise is truly beyond help. One who knows one's own ignorance has begun to learn, recognizing what is lacking and what remains to be known. Yet if one is ignorant and thinks one has already learned all, that ignorance is hard to cure. You may have seen those who listen deeply even though they know much, and those who argue to the end though they speak wrongly. The difference lies in acknowledging one's own error. 64. Even living among the wise, fools learn no wholesome teaching if their minds remain closed. It is like a spoon touching soup without tasting it. You may have known people who visit the temple often and hear many Dhamma talks, yet fail to change their way of life, for they engage only externally and never touch the teaching within. 65. But the wise, even for a moment in the presence of the wise, immediately perceive the ineffable Dhamma, like the tongue discerning the flavor of soup. One word, one glance, one gentle hint is enough to awaken them, just as a taste reveals salt and sweetness. You may have heard a simple sentence at just the right moment, seen it penetrate your heart, and found yourself awakened. 66. Fools, in their ignorance, create their own enemies. Through wrong speech, wrong action, and wrong thought, they weave their own suffering. You may have seen those who act on impulse without mindfulness, never pausing, never reflecting, and thus entangle themselves in endless trouble without recognizing their own fault. 67. Unwholesome actions done without remorse ripen into bitter consequences. A fool may think there is no harm, but when the fruit of their deed appears, regret floods the mind, tears flow, and suffering is endured too late. Just as a thief believes he will go unseen until at last the law catches up, so fools reap the harvest of their actions only when it is fully ripe. 68. Kind deeds done with joy bear sweet fruit. One who lives wholesomely, having done good, feels ease in the heart, free of doubt or remorse. Over time the store of merit grows, and the heart rejoices. The quiet benefactor may seek no reward, yet later their mind is calm and their gaze bright, for they have nothing to conceal. 69. Fools taste the seeming sweetness of wrongdoing before its bitterness is ripe. They imagine harm will bring benefit, savoring the fleeting sweetness that turns to poison at the core. When the fruit of unwholesome deeds matures, suffering is real. A person who overindulges in drink may laugh in intoxication, but afterward the body, mind, and reputation all collapse. That initial sweetness is a deceit. 70. Even the ruler who subjects themselves to hardship, eating grass, fasting, does not compare to one who truly understands the Dhamma of impermanence, suffering, and non-self. A lifetime of formal austerities is mere form if craving and aversion remain, whereas one who deeply comprehends impermanence, even living simply, walks close to nibbana. 71. Unwholesome deeds hidden within still burn like unsolidified milk or embers smothered without the heat ending. Some consequences do not appear immediately, like freshly drawn milk that has not yet curdled or a fire covered by ashes that still smolders. The fool thinks they have escaped, but their unwholesome actions follow silently and one day burst into flame, consuming all they hold dear. 72. Misfortune befalls the fool when fame comes. Good fortune is lost, for fame, power, or wealth gained by one without wisdom is a calamity, not a blessing. They do not know how to preserve or use it, and it harms them. Like one drunk wielding a sword, they harm themselves and others. Reputation without wisdom is like a serpent riding on a sleeper's shoulder. 73. Desiring unworthy honors, wanting to sit before the community of monks, craving respect in the assembly. Such fools crave the highest seat and the homage of others. Yet honors come not from moral restraint, but from craving. Like one climbing onto a high seat without balance, they fall by their own ambition. 74. Fools imagine they command both monks and lay people, believing all must obey their wishes, and thus their craving grows. They seek to control both those who practice and those who do not. They imagine they are indispensable, that without them all would collapse. This view is the root of pride. The more they crave fame, the further they stray from the Dhamma, the more they ensnare themselves in confusion. 75. How different are the gains of worldly honor from the path to nibbana? Monks, disciples of the Buddha, be like this. When praised, do not cling. Cultivate detachment through practice. The Buddha made clear, the road that chases fame is one path. The road to nibbana is another. You cannot walk both at once. A practitioner should know how to choose and how to withdraw from noisy places to return inwardly. Do not long for praise or seek respect, but seek only awakening. 76. If you see a noble wise one pointing out faults as if revealing buried gold, draw near to such a person. Being near them cannot harm you. The criticism of the wise is like a mirror illuminating one's blemishes. The wise do not resent correction. They know it is an opportunity to see what remains hidden. It is like someone telling you where a pot of gold lies buried. If you accept it and dig there, you profit. Likewise, when a noble one points out your faults. If you listen, you uncover the treasure within your own mind. Do not fear admonition or shun stern teachers, for they guide you on the proper path like light in the darkness, though its glare may startle. 77. Those who exhort others to refrain from wrongdoing are cherished by the noble and disliked by the wicked. One who encourages good will never satisfy everyone. The kind-hearted will appreciate your counsel. The malicious will resent it because the light you shine exposes their shadows. You may have offered sincere advice only to find the other person angry, not because you were wrong, but because they were not yet ready to receive your light. 78. Do not keep company with the wicked or the petty. Keep company with the virtuous and the noble. Your companions will either lift you up or drag you down. Choosing friends is choosing your future. The wicked may seem fun at first, but will lead you into darkness. The virtuous may speak little, but in their presence your heart feels at ease. You may have spent time with someone who constantly complained and found yourself growing critical too. Then one day, when you changed, you felt a calm you had never known. 79. Joy in the Dhamma brings peace of mind and purity of heart. The wise rejoice in the teaching. For a noble one, expounding the Dhamma is not mere words but a light that helps the mind see clearly. When the mind is still, the teaching enters and becomes a profound source of joy. You need only a single verse to find peace. You may have encountered the line, "If the mind does not let go, circumstances cannot be transcended," felt it strike your deepest worries, and found yourself at rest. 80. Just as water must be guided to flow aright, arrows must be shaped, and wood must be carved, so too must one restrain and cultivate the mind. The wise know to turn inward to train body, speech, and thought. You may have lost your temper and spoken harshly, then returned, sat in stillness, and realized that by holding the mind steady, everything else can be corrected. 81. Like a massive rock unmoved by praise or blame, the wise feel neither elation at praise nor sorrow at criticism, for they know that others' words reflect the speaker, not themselves. A boulder stands firm because its center is secure. Likewise, the wise remain unshaken. You may have seen someone misunderstood yet silent. When asked why, they replied, "I know who I am." 82. Like a deep, clear lake undisturbed by sediment, so the wise experience serene delight when hearing the Dhamma. The teaching is not to be understood by the intellect alone, but to be absorbed by the heart. A clear mind finds the Dhamma refreshing. A clouded mind finds it tedious. You may have heard a discourse when your mind was restless and felt nothing. Then, when calmness arose, you listened again and found tears of peace welling up. 83. The noble abandon all attachments. The virtuous are free from craving, rich in the taste of joy and pain. The wise feel neither elation nor despondency. They know pleasure and pain as equally transient. They neither cling to joy nor resist sorrow. They move through both like a calm lake through sun and rain. You may have delighted in praise, then despaired at blame, and grown weary of drifting with others' opinions. Then you chose silence. 84. Neither for oneself nor for others, neither seeking children nor wealth nor merit through unwholesome means, such a one truly possesses rightful wisdom. The wise will not sacrifice integrity for short-term gain, whether for themselves or for others. If a deed violates the Dhamma, they will not commit it. You may have been offered a seemingly noble reason to do wrong, and yet declined because you knew that wrong is wrong, regardless of how beautiful the motive. 85. Few among humanity reach the far shore, while the rest remain shuttling along this bank. Few behold the Dhamma, and even fewer practice it. The majority circle this bank, indulging in pleasures and worries. You may have felt yourself trapped in a cycle of your own making. Then you wondered if there might be another way. That was the moment you began seeking the far shore. 86. Those who practice the teaching and avoid its opposite, as wisely instructed, will reach the far shore. Escaping the demons is hard. It is not learning alone that brings you across, but practice, living in accordance with what you have learned. The far shore is not distant from this one, but lies just beyond one step of renunciation, one step of letting go. You may have claimed to understand the Dhamma, but only when you ceased a single unwholesome habit did you realize you were truly moving toward the far shore. 87. The wise abandon the dark teaching and cultivate the bright. forsaking attachment to home and embracing the renunciation of pleasure and pain. The dark teaching leads to delusion. The bright opens the mind. A true practitioner not only leaves the external home, but abandons the inner home of clinging and fantasy. You may have tried living a day with fewer attachments and demands and felt the lightness of heart that resulted. 88. Yearn for the joy of nibbana. Forsake craving and possession. The wise cleanse defilement from within. Nibbana is not a place of escape, but a state in which the mind is free of bonds, no longer clinging to gain or loss, no longer suffering from attachment. To attain it, one must purify one's own mind. It cannot be done by another. You may have clung fiercely to a desire, a person, or a thought, and then when you let go, you discovered that nibbana was closer than you thought. 89. Those who with right mind practice diligently abandon all clinging, rejoice without attachment, shine brightly, and live serenely. They cultivate mindfulness and introspection daily. Each attachment is released, each illusion observed, and their inner light grows. No one grants them peace. They themselves are the light. You may have met someone living simply yet radiating tranquility and clarity because they had purified their mind through gradual practice. Wise virtue reminds us being good is not enough. One must learn, practice, choose one's companions wisely, and know how to remain steadfast amid life's turmoil. The wise bring peace to the world by their own stillness. 90. The destination reached, there is no further sorrow, no more fetters to bind. That one, free from restlessness, has arrived and needs go nowhere else. The mind seeks no more and is drawn by nothing. They are liberated from defilements. Their heart is cool, their spirit at peace. You may have seen someone sitting in profound silence, saying little, arguing not. They do not need to prove anything, for in their heart they have already arrived. 91. Self-sufficient in effort, shunning attachments, liking no dwelling, like a wild goose that leaves the lake and forsakes all hiding places. The liberated one no longer depends on any abode or clings to refuge. Their mind is as light as a wild goose. When the cause arises, they stop. When it ceases, they fly. You may have known someone rooted in inner mindfulness who can live anywhere, asking nothing, clinging to nothing, because their true refuge is within. 92. Possessions unstocked, mindful in eating and drinking, free in every place, liberated in all forms, like a bird in the sky whose flight is hard to trace. That one stores nothing, has no attachment to food or sense objects, and the mind is bound by no craving. They live through the three doors of liberation, formless, desireless. Their footprint is as elusive as a bird's passing through the void, leaving no trace. You may have met someone living so lightly, without show, without leaving clear marks, yet all who draw near sense their brightness. 93. Whoever has severed all defilements, eats and drinks without attachment, is free in every place of habitation, achieving formless liberation, like a bird in the void, whose true footprints are hard to trace. Let this be repeated for emphasis, that one has eradicated the very root of suffering. Craving, aversion, and ignorance leave no trace, no tether amid the world, even though no bonds remain. You may have worked without seeking recognition, helped others without wanting your name remembered. In those moments you felt light, and in that instant you stepped into formless freedom. 94. Whoever has mastered the senses like a charioteer, reigns in pride, removes defilements, ends clinging. Such a one commands the admiration of the gods, yet is not drawn by eye, ear, nose, body, or mind. This is a mind under true control, like a charioteer holding the reins firmly. They are not led astray by the carriage, and even devas revere them. You may have met someone who remained unmoved by sights, unangered by insults, untempted by beauty. In them you sensed a rare steadfastness. 95. Like the earth that bears all without resentment, like a steadfast pillar, like a clear lake untouched by mud, liberated from rebirth. Such an arahant is like the earth, trodden by all, yet bearing no grudge. A pillar stands unmoved in the wind. A lake stays clear and calm. You may have held anger for years, but when you let go, you felt light. This is a small taste of the arahant's serenity. 96. One whose mind is tranquil, whose speech is gentle, whose actions are harmless, shunning defilements, they enjoy pure liberation. Because their mind is calm, their words are soft, and their deeds cause no harm. They need no outward show of peace, for peace itself suffuses every breath. You may have sat beside someone who said nothing yet made you feel at ease because of their cool stillness. 97. Not believing in the unreal, one cuts all chains and seizes the opportunity for complete release. This one is truly supreme. They no longer cling to illusions nor seek realms or deities. They understand that liberation lies not outside, but in inner letting go. Having severed all causes and cut away every link, they do not return. You may have clung to a false belief, but when you saw the truth, you let go and stepped free. In that moment you found clarity. 98. Village or forest, valley or high hill, wherever an arahant dwells, that place becomes lovely. Such an arahant does not choose a beautiful setting. Wherever they abide, beauty arises, because they bring light to every place. You may have visited a simple temple, unadorned and modest, but a single true teacher made your heart feel at peace. 99. Charming indeed are the mountains and forests shunned by the world, places where one who has renounced craving delights. For while the unwise seek city pleasures, the liberated delight in solitude. It is not the place itself, but its power to foster inner tranquility. You may have known someone who returned to their village, not out of disdain for people, but to rediscover the silence that the Shum beschützt. Typo. Let's rephrase the last part. Rediscover the tranquility that life's noise had obscured. 100. 1,000 words spoken may fill the air, but nothing is more beneficial than a single meaningful sentence after which one feels peace. Many words, empty as wind in a dry forest. A timely phrase becomes a light in the night. You may have heard countless pieces of advice, yet only when someone quietly said, "Don't try to control everything." Did you pause and feel your heart settle? 101. 1,000 verses may be recited, but nothing is more beneficial than one line that brings peace upon hearing. Beautiful verses without illuminating the mind are mere ornament. Yet a single line with the power to return the heart to the Dhamma is worth more than all other scripture. You may have written and read extensively, but one heartfelt phrase, the root of all action, made you stop and reflect on yourself. 102. 100 verses may be proclaimed, but nothing is more beneficial than one Dhamma word heard that soothes the mind. The teaching's value lies not in length, but in lifting one from delusion. One phrase, when timely and fitting, exceeds an entire volume. You may have taught your child many lessons, but once you embraced them and said, "You don't need to be perfect, only honest," they wept, and so did you. 103. Victorious on the battlefield against 1,000 foes, yet no victory surpasses conquering oneself. Ultimate triumph. Defeating others is temporary. Conquering one's own mind is lasting, for the greatest enemy lies within. You may have forced someone to follow you and gain their obedience, yet you know that conquering them does not help you. But when you mastered your own anger, you realized your true victory. 104. Self-mastery is nobler than defeating others. One who skillfully tames oneself lives in self-restraint. No one controls you more than your own mind, and no one frees you from suffering but yourself. You may have been driven by a habit until one day you said, "Enough," and stopped. That moment marked the beginning of your victory over yourself. 105. Even Indra's angels, or Mara, the evil one, cannot conquer the self-conqueror. Thus, no divine power can interfere with each person's path of self-discipline. One who masters their own mind is no longer subject to external forces. You may have lived to please someone else until you chose to follow the goodness in your own heart, needing no one's approval, knowing you were guiding your own path. 106. For months you may offer gold in worship, even across 100 years, yet it does not compare to a single moment of homage to one who practices self-cultivation. Such an offering surpasses centuries of ritual sacrifice. Without awakening the mind, rites remain mere form. But one sincere act of reverence to a true practitioner creates boundless merit. You may have made offerings at many temples, But when you silently bowed before one who genuinely dwells in practice, you wept, realizing merit springs not from form, but from a sincere heart. 107. Even a century spent tending fire in a deep forest is not equal to a moment's homage to a self-practitioner. Such an offering is greater than 100 years of ritual. Long practice does not replace right practice, and many offerings do not equal a mindful gift. A recluse living in the woods, who truly has abandoned desire and practices pure, just one thought directed toward them is a great wholesome deed. You may have heard of a solitary practitioner you never met, yet thinking of them moved your heart to aspire to goodness. 108. Throughout the year you may offer many material gifts to gain worldly merit, but even a quarter of that in reverence to one endowed with authentic virtue is worth more. Offering objects does not equal directing the mind to one of genuine spiritual attainment. A small act of devotion with a pure heart yields deep merit. You may have given offerings with expectations, but one day you simply folded your hands before someone who upholds the precepts, without fame or gain, and you felt a serenity far beyond any grand ceremony. 109. Always honor and revere the senior elders, for qualities will flourish, long life, health, joy, and strength. Respect and veneration are the roots of all blessings. One who honors grows in lifespan, appearance, happiness, and inner power. You may have seen a person honoring their parents without anger, without argument, without pride. They live long, peaceful, and healthy lives because of the merit in their grateful hearts. 110. Whoever lives 100 years of wrongdoing without moral restraint or meditation would be better off living a single day observing precepts and practicing concentration. It is not longevity, but depth that matters. One day of moral conduct and meditative absorption is more precious than a long life without mindfulness. You may have lived carelessly for many years, but on the night you committed to a single precept, you felt your mind grow clear and peaceful. 111. Whoever lives 100 years of wrongdoing without wisdom or meditation would be better off living a single day cultivating insight through concentration. Learning alone does not guarantee wisdom, nor does age guarantee right living. One day with a clear heart is more valuable than 100 years of being lost. You may have met someone eloquent and learned yet forever restless, and also someone quiet whose presence felt bright because they lived by understanding, not by words. 112. Whoever lives 100 years in laziness without diligence would be better off living a single day striving wholeheartedly. One day of wakefulness surpasses 100 years of drifting. One moment of true effort outweighs an endless stretch of surrender. You may have put off practice, but on the day you told yourself to begin, you saw your mind illuminate like a newly lit candle. 113. Whoever lives 100 years without seeing the arising and passing away of phenomena would be better off living a single day perceiving their birth and extinction. To see arising is to see the beginning, to see passing is to see release. One who sees impermanence is already very close to awakening. You may have noticed thoughts and emotions arise and fade. Simply observing and realizing life is a flow of birth and death. Recognition is the first step out of suffering. 114. Whoever lives 100 years without glimpsing the immutable would be better off living a single day witnessing the deathless. Deathless is not written on paper, but is the deep abiding when fear of birth and death vanishes. You may once have feared death, but the day you let go of a desire, you found death held no terror, for living mindfully each breath is what truly matters. 115. Whoever lives 100 years without encountering the supreme teaching would be better off living a single day glimpsing it. The supreme teaching is that which is no longer bound by aging, self, craving, attachment, or contact. To know it is the path, to live it is liberation. You may have chased many methods, but on the day you realized that letting go is the supreme teaching, you felt infinitely lighter. 116. Swiftly undertake good, prevent the mind from doing evil. Whoever delays doing good favors evil. This verse reminds us, do not procrastinate when an opportunity for virtue arises. Good deeds must be done at once, for the mind is prone to laziness, forgetfulness, and slipping into wrongdoing. If you see someone in need, do not wait for leisure. If you have kind words, do not wait for the perfect moment. Delay allows excuses and invites harm, like a leaking roof that, if not repaired immediately, floods the house. Likewise, if you delay good, the mind will drift toward wrongdoing, and return becomes difficult. 117. If one commits wrongdoing, cease further misdeeds and abandon desire for evil. To continue wrongdoing is to court suffering. Even if you have already erred, stopping is the first step toward repentance. If you nurture evil, your mind becomes darkness, and suffering ripens like fruit in its season. You may have spoken a hurtful word thinking it harmless, only to see the relationship fracture and learn that sowing harm brings bitter harvest. 118. If one does good, continue practicing it, and cultivate the wish for virtue. Goodness brings peace. Virtue is light. Even the smallest kindness can brighten an entire life. When you do good, your heart feels light, and that lightness is great merit. You may have helped someone in a small way without seeking thanks, and afterward felt a lasting warmth in your heart. 119. The wrongdoer sees nothing wrong while their evil is immature. Only when the evil bears fruit does its harm become clear. Before the outcome appears, the wrongdoer may think all is well, but the misdeed quietly grows like poison concealed underground. You may have seen someone live prosperously despite wrongdoing, but later watched them collapse in suffering when their evil came to light. 120. The virtuous see no virtue before their goodness ripens. When goodness matures, only then is virtue recognized. A doer of good may at first face hardship, misunderstanding, or loss, but later their virtue ripens like a sweet fruit in the sun. You may have upheld your precepts feeling alone, only to find later your mind was purified and your heart untroubled. 121. Do not despise small acts of evil, thinking they do not concern you. Like drops of water filling a vessel, small wrongs accumulate until the vessel overflows. The foolish fill themselves with evil drop by drop. Evil comes not in torrents, but in steady trickles. Each small wrong thought or act adds to suffering. You may have dismissed a small lie, but when repeated, you lost the trust of loved ones. The vessel of karma was full. 122. Do not despise small acts of virtue, thinking they are insignificant. Like drops of water filling a vessel, so do small deeds of goodness accumulate until full. The wise fill themselves with virtue drop by drop. Each small kindness, each moment of patience, each act of loving kindness is a shining drop. You may have chanted a short verse each day or bowed to the Buddha each morning. In time your mind grew steadfast. Your vessel of virtue was filling. 123. Few the right paths, many the pitfalls. The prudent merchant avoids dangerous roads. To live safely and avoid poison, one must shun evil. Thus the wise avoid danger. One who knows how to live steers clear of wrongdoing. For evil is poison, sweet to the tongue, but fatal to the body. You may have feared offending someone and done wrong for their sake, but later understood that even if displeasing others, avoiding wrongdoing is essential for your own well-being. 124. A hand unscarred can handle poison unscarred. By avoiding poison, one remains untainted by harm. One who sows no evil cannot be bound by it. Like a hand uncut, poison cannot seep in. You may have been slandered, but chose not to react or retaliate. In time, the accusers fell silent because your peace gave them no wound in which to root their poison. 125. To harm without malice, and to remain pure. When a foolish person harms a pure one, they create debt like dust thrown against the wind only to be blown back. You may have seen someone driven by anger attempt to harm the virtuous, but the wrongdoer alone suffered while the pure remained at ease. 126. Some are reborn among the wicked in hell. The virtuous ascend to the heavenly realms or attain nibbana. One's rebirth is not by wish, but by action. The wicked descend into suffering, the virtuous into light. The one who practices to completion transcends even birth and death. You may have wondered why some are born into hardship. The answer lies in the seeds they planted, and the place of rebirth is the field of repayment. 127. Neither in the sky nor in the sea, no hidden mountain retreat can escape the results of evil deeds. Karma cannot be diverted once its fruit is ripe. The only way to avoid it is not to plant the seed. You may have tried to evade the consequences of a wrong, yet in the end, everything returned to you. In that moment, you realize that karma is an unbreakable law. 128. No place in the sky, no refuge on the sea, no mountain cave can hide one from death's grasp. Death arrives unbidden, without warning, without pity. No one, even the mighty or the clever, can escape. You may have heard of a friend's sudden passing and wondered, how much time do I have left to live rightly? The chapter, Evil, is a gentle yet piercing alarm in the dead of night, reminding us not to dismiss a single unwholesome thought and not to forget that every small good intention accumulates into our life's tapestry. 129. Everyone fears punishment, everyone fears death. Take yourself as example. None wish to be killed or to kill. All fear pain. All fear cessation. If you do not want it to happen to you, do not cause it for others. To understand yourself is to love others. You may have seen someone strike an animal then recoil when hurt themselves. Had they placed themselves in that creature's position, they would have stopped sooner. 130. Everyone fears punishment, everyone cherishes life. Use yourself as example. None wish to kill or to be killed. All treasure living. If you grasp that fear, you will learn to live kindly. You may have rescued an ant about to be crushed, not out of sympathy for it, but because you thought, if I were that ant, what would I feel? 131. Beings seek happiness. Those who beat others to secure their own joy will not find joy in the next life. To use another's suffering as your pleasure is a borrowed joy. It will transform into suffering in the next existence. You may have known someone who grew rich by deceiving others. They thought themselves secure, but karma arrived. Wealth lost, reputation gone, body and mind in turmoil. 132. Beings seek happiness. Those who do not harm others to find their own joy will enjoy happiness in the next life. One who knows not to injure another already finds peace in their own heart, and that peace carries forward into future lives. You may have met someone neither wealthy nor famous yet universally beloved because they never harmed others. They are the truly content. 133. Do not speak cruel words. Harsh speech boomerangs back as suffering. Words of anger are like a blade in the wind that returns to cut its wielder. You may have uttered a harsh word in anger and regretted it. As the recipient responded with anger, exchange after exchange, leaving no one at peace. 134. If you remain silent like a shattered bell, you have realized nibbana. Anger no longer arises. Silence is not weakness, but the strength of one who no longer harbors wrath, who sees that anger only burns oneself. You may have witnessed someone who never raised their voice even when insulted. They are like a bell broken, no longer resonating with anger. 135. As a herdsman's staff herds cattle to pasture, so aging and death drive beings to the end. Whether you wish it or not, old age, sickness, and death herd you toward your final destiny. None can evade. You may have watched your hair turn gray, your back stoop, and realized the staff of birth and death is urging you forward. 136. The foolish commit evil unknowingly, driven by their own karma. They are like fire stoked from within. Their wrongdoing smolders until one day it engulfs them. You may have misspoken long ago only to understand its consequences years later, at which point karma ignited. 137. To punish wrongdoers with the rod causes greater harm. One unjust blow sows vastly multiplied karma, for it is not only wrongful, but unjust. You may have seen someone falsely accused. The accuser then suffered many misfortunes, as if their own deeds returned as a storm. 138. Or one may endure excruciating bodily harm or illness, or a storm of mental anguish, pain in the body, torment in the mind, sleepless nights, no peace. You may have known someone who had everything yet could not sleep, could not laugh, could not trust. That is suffering sown by the mind. 139. Or calamities from kings, or false charges, relatives torn apart, property destroyed. The evildoer may face disasters imposed by authority or be slandered, family torn asunder, possessions lost. You may have known someone who prospered through wrongdoing, only to be arrested one night, their family shattered, their life never fully recovered. 140. Or homes consumed by fire. As the body perishes, evil karma burns in hell. Betrayal without causes can burn your house. Inner betrayal burns your next life. One who lives with a malicious heart, upon death, falls into a realm of agonizing pain. You may have heard of a household fire and someone remark, "They did many wrongs. Now their karma burns them." Whether true or not, that warning shook you. 141. It is not by outward austerity, wearing matted hair, fasting, rolling in the dust, that purity is gained. If doubt remains, austerities alone cannot cleanse. You may have seen someone adhere to rigid precepts yet still harbor anger and pride. You understand. True practice arises in the heart, not in forms. 142. Whoever adorns themselves simply yet dwells in peace and self-restraint, living steadfastly in moral conduct without harming any being, such a one is a brahmana, wise and noble, a mendicant ascetic. Not everyone who dresses plainly is a practitioner. Only one who is serene, ethical, and harmless truly practices. You may have met someone in simple robes whose gentle speech and patient life made you bow, sensing the Dhamma in them. 143. Rare indeed in human life is one who knows shame, self-restraint, and how to avoid reproach, like a gentle horse that avoids the whip. One who feels shame carries a light within. They self-reflect and avoid wrongdoing. You may have erred and felt genuine shame, not because others rebuked you, but because you wished to keep your own integrity. At that moment you were drawing near the path. 144. Like a trained horse that responds swiftly to the lightest touch, be earnest and enthusiastic in faith, morality, diligence, concentration, and in discerning the clear path. Mindfulness, the ending of suffering without limit. A well-trained horse needs only a gentle nudge to sprint. One who practices only needs a single reminder to return to the right path. You may have read one verse that shook your heart and reformed your conduct. That is the flash of wisdom at work. 145. Just as a water engineer channels rivers, an arrow maker straightens arrows, and a carpenter shapes wood, so must the practitioner shape themselves. You may have observed someone skilled in living. They did not attempt to fix others, but focused on refining themselves, and others changed in response. 146. The chapter, Punishment, is a clarion call reminding us that living rightly is not merely avoiding faults, but nurturing a mind that harms no one and training oneself daily, like bending a sapling straight toward the light. 147. Why laugh? Why rejoice when life is forever lacking and darkness surrounds us? Why not seek the lamp of wisdom? We laugh and make merry while our bodies are false, our minds exhausted, and time waits for no one. If you find yourself in the night, why not go in search of the light? If you know life is suffering, why remain lost in the fire? You may have laughed heartily at a feast, only to feel emptiness upon returning home. That is when this verse strikes true. You laugh, but are not truly joyful. 148. Consider the beautiful bubble, made of wounds, disease, and anxious thoughts. Nothing is eternal. This body is like a lovely bubble, fragile, a slightest touch and it bursts. Within it lie every scar and worry. You may have stared in the mirror, noting gray hair, wrinkled skin, tired eyes, and realized that this body is no longer a safe refuge. 149. This form decays, is impure, frail and prone to disease. It shatters, and death ends life. The body harbors illness like a fragile cloud in an impermanent sky. When the wind of karma blows, the body scatters like dust. You may have watched a loved one breathe their last and understood. This body is a borrowed garment that no one keeps forever. 150. Like a withered gourd cast aside, its white bones exposed, why would anyone rejoice in a body that is false? It is like a decayed fruit. No one wishes to keep it or finds it beautiful. Its flesh erodes, memories fade. You may have seen your 20-year-old photo and suddenly realized how much time has stolen away. 151. This body is built of bones and clothed in flesh and blood. Within it lies age and death, deception and decay. It is a fortress of impermanence, skeleton and skin, harboring disease within and illusion without. You may have known someone beautiful who collapsed to illness, reminding you not to grow proud of this body. 152. Even the king's grand chariot ages. This body, too, will grow old. But the supreme teaching does not age. Thus the highest good speaks to the good. The finest chariot decays. A robust body will weaken. but the Dhamma remains untouched by time. You may have met a frail teacher whose words still brimmed with wisdom. For the body may perish, but the teaching endures. 153. The unlearned grow old like an ox. Their flesh swells with age, yet their wisdom does not grow. Age does not create insight. Skin and muscle do not produce understanding. One who never learns simply ages like an animal, knowing nothing, waking to nothing. You may have heard someone say, "I'm old, I know everything," only to see they understood little of themselves. 154. Wandering countless lifetimes, I searched but found no builder. Who constructed this house of flesh? How sorrowful to be reborn again. The Buddha recalled his many lives. He sought the architect of his own body, the one who forced him to be reborn again and again. You may have grown weary of endless cycles of effort and failure, joy and sorrow, attachment and loss. And you, too, seek the architect of this mind-body home. 155. Ah, builder of this house, now I have seen you. You build no more. Your hands are broken. Your beams have collapsed. My mind has reached cessation and all craving has been extinguished. Then he perceived, craving is the builder, clinging to self, clinging to form, clinging to experience. When the house's collapse is fully seen, rebirth ends, and the mind is free. You may have recognized a habit that bound you for years, then one day you stopped and felt a glimpse of freedom. 156. In youth, one neglects virtue and chases wealth, like a lonely heron by a dry pond, bereft of fish. The young do not keep precepts, do not cultivate merit, do not learn the teaching, do not develop wisdom. In old age they resemble a withered plant, left cold and full of regret. You may have seen an elder who lives in nostalgia, always sighing, "If only in my youth." 157. If you truly love yourself, you must guard yourself wisely. The wise remain vigilant through the 3 watches of the night. True self-love is not indulgence, but mindfulness. For one who stays awake through the watches is one who truly cares for themselves. You may have let body and mind fall into exhaustion before recognizing your own carelessness, and realize that awareness itself is an act of love. 158. First, place yourself on the path you teach to others. Only then can you guide them without being defiled. To instruct others, you must live rightly first. One who only preaches but does not practice is easily led astray. You may have seen someone urge others to meditate, yet never sat in stillness themselves, and know that empty instruction lacks power without lived experience. 159. Make yourself what you teach others. It is hard to change when you cannot master yourself. Teaching is easy, self-discipline is hard. The skilled teacher does both, speaks rightly and lives rightly. You may have drafted sublime words yet, under hardship, behaved no differently than anyone, and learned that action is far more demanding than words. 160. Be your own refuge. Rely on yourself. No external support will suffice. To tame yourself and find guidance within is rare indeed. No one can practice for you. No one can stop your suffering except you. You may have sought someone to save you, only to realize no one can save you unless you rise and save yourself. 161. Wrongdoing you commit yourself. From your own karma it is born, by your own hand it is crushed. The foolish are like uncut gems. Evil is not set by others but crafted by themselves, and then it shatters its maker. You may have known a schemer who thought themselves clever, only to be undone by their own plots. 162. Violating precepts is grievous, like vines that strangle a tree, bringing harm to the self like an enemy within. Precepts stand as fences that keep the mind bright. Breaking them opens the gates to hordes of suffering. You may have set aside a single precept and found your mind clouded, your light dimmed, and known that no external judge punished you. You harmed yourself. 163. Evil is easy. Self-harm is easy. Goodness, the supreme good, is difficult. Wrong is effortless. Right demands perseverance, for goodness always moves against the wind. You may have found it easy to abandon a precept but hard to keep it, realizing that virtue requires vigilance, patience, and courage. 164. The ignorant scorn the Dhamma, the arhants, the noble path. This very wrong view is the seed of ruin. like fruit of certain trees that destroys its own seed. Disdain for the teaching sows self-annihilation. It is not the Dhamma that loses value, but the one who uproots themselves. You may have mocked discipline as outdated, only to find yourself rootless, adrift. 165. Wrongdoings you commit yourself make your mind impure. Refraining from wrong makes it pure. Purity is self-wrought. No one can purify another. No one can defile you except yourself. You may have looked for someone to bring you peace, only to realize true peace arrives when your own mind relinquishes anger, craving, and confusion. 166. Do not follow paths of degeneration. Do not live heedlessly. Do not accept false views. Do not nurture worldly dross. Some roads seem smooth but lead to decline. Some beliefs feel comforting but lead to delusion. You may have seen someone living recklessly, saying, "As long as I'm happy," only to end up empty and wounded in body and mind. 167. No matter how much you benefit others, do not neglect caring for yourself. Overcome the pride of self-sacrifice and dedicate yourself to your own welfare. One's own benefit. Here is not selfishness, but mindfulness. Refining yourself, upholding precepts, guarding mind and wisdom. You may have exhausted yourself for others, only to find that when your own mind is clouded, no one truly gains. 168. Strive without laxity. Live by the path of restraint. The negligent live in looseness. Restraint is living in awareness. The aware know where they are headed. You may have spent months in excess, followed by days of regret, until you resolve to return and live rightly. 169. Live skillfully in restraint. Do not live by indulgence. Restraint brings happiness in this life and the next. The wrong path, however shortened, will not reach the goal. Restraint is the radiant but arduous way. It is worth the effort. You may have chosen an easier but wrong path, only to feel lighter when you later chose the right, even though it was harder. 170. Regard life as a water bubble, as an illusory scene. When you see existence this way, death cannot seize you. When you realize life is bubbles, dreams, images, and magic, there is nothing to cling to, nothing to fear losing. You may have watched a cherished possession break and merely smiled, because you had long seen it as a bubble. 171. View this life like a king's splendid chariot. The foolish covet it, the wise never fall in love. Life is beautiful like a shining chariot, yet that beauty will decay. The wise merely smile and let go. You may have seen someone with everything yet consumed by suffering, and known that possession alone does not end sorrow. 172. Whoever lived recklessly before and now lives without laxity shines in this life, like the moon emerging from clouds. Not all who err are lost. Those who return shine like the moon beyond a veil of mistakes. You may have erred yourself, but when you corrected that error, it became a milestone in your growth. 173. Whoever uses wholesome deeds to erase evil karma shines in this life, like the moon emerging from clouds. No karma is immutable. If you truly practice wholesome deeds, they wash away past defilements like water clearing mud. You may have known someone once very lost who, through practice, became kind and forgiving, and you witnessed their radiant light, not hiding faults but transcending them. 174. This life is blind. Few see clearly, like birds freed from a net. Rare is the ascent to heavenly realms. Most of us live without true sight. Eyes are hooded by desire, ears plugged by praise or blame. You may have once been that way, blind to your direction. Only when awakened did you feel yourself like a swan soaring above the net of ignorance. 175. Like a celestial swan flying in supernatural grace, soaring the sky and conquering demonic hosts, the wise transcend this life, rising like the swan, unbound by fetters, for they have conquered internal demons, not external ones. You may once have overcome a powerful craving and felt as light as one freed from a prison. 176. Whoever violates a precept, utters false speech, or denies the next life, no evil remains undone. The root of all sin is denying karmic consequence. When one disbelieves in the next life, they dare everything. You may have heard someone say, life ends at death. Then watch them live as if they had nothing to lose, only to lose everything. 177. Stinginess does not bring heavenly birth. The foolish scorn generosity, the wise delight in giving, enjoying bliss in the next life. Generosity opens the gates of merit. Clinging locks you in suffering. Generosity is not merely giving to others, but liberating yourself from avarice. You may have given to help someone and afterward felt your heart grow warm, light, and joyful. That is the glow of generosity. 178. More than ruling the land, more than birth in heaven, more than holding sway over the cosmos, the supreme fruit of the stream minter surpasses all heavenly power and wealth. Nothing equals one who has glimpsed the path and entered the stream of fruition. You may have been praised, honored, and followed, yet remained lonely, until you saw a light in your own heart and understood that this is what no one can take from you. 179. The worldly Buddha, with all its illusions, is still impermanent. Beautiful, powerful, pleasurable though it may be, without wakefulness we become lost. From here the Buddha guides us to a brighter point, one who has passed beyond all ties to the world and remains untrapped by illusion. He is Gautama Buddha, and thus begins chapter 14, Gautama. 180. The unconquerable victor, one who travels without leaving a trace, conquering the Buddha realms vast beyond measure. Who can track a being who leaves no tracks? Some victories are overturned, but there is one victory that never fails, leaves no trace to follow. That is conquering oneself. The Buddha is such a victor. You may have seen someone free from anger and disturbance, unmoved by praise, leaving no imprint for defilements to cling to. That is the highest triumph. 181. Whoever unravels the net of craving and clinging, crossing into the Buddha realms unfathomable. Who can trace the steps of one who leaves no trace? Craving is the net, clinging, the tether, leading us in endless rebirth. One who severs those cords departs the map of suffering, leaving nothing to pursue. You may have let go of a single attachment and felt your mind suddenly much lighter. Then you understood a hint of no trace. 182. The wise devote themselves to meditative absorption, love tranquility, and cultivate detachment. The Devis all revere the fully awakened one, who stands in right mindfulness. The wise do not crave bustle or bask in praise. They seek stillness, and thus they shine. You may have met someone radiantly calm. One look or a single word from them brought you peace. 183. Hard indeed it is to be born human, hard to live, and harder still to hear the wondrous teaching. Rare is it to hear the Dhamma, more rare yet to meet the Buddha. You may have faced a great ordeal and realized, being alive is a blessing. Hearing the teaching is a gift beyond gold. 184. Do no evil, accomplish wholesome deeds, and keep the mind pure. This is the teaching of the Buddhas. The Buddha's path is not elaborate. Abstain from wrongdoing, cultivate goodness, and cleanse the mind. You may have asked, is following the Buddha complicated? Upon hearing this, you saw its simplicity and its profound depth. 185. The Buddhas often teach, patience and austerity are supreme. Nibbana is the ultimate fruit. One ordained must not violate precepts. The monk harms no one. The Buddha does not call for conquest over others, but teaches to conquer oneself. No aggression, no harm, no deceit. Only patience, only purity, only letting go. You may have felt anger at an insult, but when you practiced patience, you realized you were not defeated but truly victorious. 186. Do not slander or destroy. Uphold the basic precepts. Eat and drink in moderation. Sit in places of quiet solitude. Devote your mind to the highest practice. This is the teaching of the Buddhas. Do not slander anyone. Live without indulgence. Eat properly. Dwell apart. Maintain a mind of meditation. You may have lived simply for a few days and found your mind much clearer, for you ceased running after distractions and turned inward. 187. Though rain poured gold upon you, sensual pleasures are hard to satisfy. Bitterness far outweighs sweetness. Knowing this is the mark of the wise. Desire is like salty water. You grow thirstier the more you drink. The wise do not chase it. You may have longed for something and obtained it, only to crave more, and then you understood, desire is never quenched. 188. A true disciple of awakening does not seek sensual delight. Even celestial pleasures are abandoned in favor of the cessation of craving. A child of the Buddha not only shuns base desires, but releases even noble ones, not out of hatred, but because they have seen clearly that no sweetness compares to a pure mind. You may once have wanted something deeply, then let it go, and discovered that freedom comes not from possession, but from release. 189. People frightened by suffering seek refuge in dense forests, mountains, groves, or temples. When hardship strikes, they yearn for shelter, but if refuge is misplaced, it is only temporary and not freeing. 190. Such refuge is unstable. There is no supreme refuge in those places. Taking refuge in sites of worship does not end all suffering. A well is not a temple. A mountain statue is not refuge. True refuge is turning the mind inward toward Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. 191. Whoever takes refuge in the Buddha, the teaching, and the community, who practices true right view and perceives the Four Noble Truths, has taken refuge in the light, seeing suffering, origin, cessation, and the path. That is the beginning of genuine refuge. You may have heard a teaching that suddenly woke you. That was your true refuge. 192. See suffering and its origin. To see suffering is to transcend it. To see the path is to know the way. The Noble Eightfold Path is the map out of distress. Whoever perceives it is already stepping away from delusion. 193. Genuine refuge brings stability and supreme value. Only by such refuge can one escape all suffering. Anything less is mere attachment, even to images, mountains, or monasteries. If the mind does not turn inward, suffering remains. 194. Rare indeed is the place of true holy ones. They are not everywhere. Wherever such a supreme being dwells, their peace abides. Meeting a holy one is great fortune. They do not shout or boast. They simply radiate calm. You may have encountered such a person. Just sitting near them, your mind settled. 195. How joyful that the Buddha was born, that the Dhamma is taught, that the Sangha lives in harmony. Harmony in practice is truly blissful. The Buddha is the lamp, the Dhamma the healing medicine, the unified Sangha the secure refuge. 196. Offerings should be made to those worthy of homage, Buddhas or disciples who transcend mere debate and have extinguished every sorrow. The worthy are not the powerful, but those who have ended suffering, risen above conflict, freed from attachment. Such offerings are serene and fearless. Their merit is immeasurable. To give to such ones is to plant seeds in the richest field of merit, not to gain, but to express respect, gratitude, and a wish to follow the path of awakening. 197. How joyful that we dwell without hatred amidst hatred. Amid a world of hate, we live without hate. Everywhere anger abounds. People hating people, comparing, holding grudges. Yet if we keep a heart free of hatred where hatred reigns, that is an unshakable happiness. You may have seen someone insulted yet only smile, neither defending nor hating, and realize they live in true peace. 198. How joyful that we are free of illness amid sickness. Among the sick, we are without illness, not merely body but mind freed too. Some are physically strong yet full of anger, unease, and fear. You may have known someone with everything yet never at ease, while another with nothing but a smile remains untroubled, because they are free of inner affliction. 199. How joyful that we remain undisturbed amid busyness. Among the busy, everyone racing, everyone anxious. If you keep your heart unhurried, your life is wholly different. One day you may set down your phone, silence all noise, and simply sit breathing, watching a tree sway. You do nothing yet feel complete peace. That is being unstirred amid chaos. 200. How joyful that we own nothing and claim nothing as ours. We rejoice like celestial beings in boundless freedom. Ownership breeds fear. The less you clutch, the lighter you live. One who claims nothing lives like free light, unattached. You may have let go of a treasured possession and found you no longer feared its loss. Only then did you feel truly free. 201. Victory breeds enmity. Defeat brings suffering. Yet tranquil, peaceful living leaves both victory and defeat behind. Victory angers others. Defeat afflicts yourself. But if your heart clings neither to winning nor losing, your mind remains calm. That is the greatest victory. You may have walked away from an argument even though you were right, and afterward felt more peace than any triumph. 202. What flame rivals the fire of craving? What suffering matches the root of existence? What joy compares to pure tranquility? Craving burns from within, anger destroys from within, the aggregates harbor countless sufferings. Only pure tranquility, joy born of a still heart, rises above all. You may have craved something fiercely and suffered when you couldn't have it, but when you saw clearly and let go, you smiled, your mind bright as a sky after rain. 203. Hunger makes food supreme. Illness reveals the supreme suffering. Understanding this is seeing reality. Nibbana is the supreme joy. Only through hunger do you value food. Only through illness do you cherish health. Only by seeing suffering do you grasp the value of peace. And when you see it truly, you touch Nibbana, the ending of suffering, unconditional joy. You may have sighed over your restlessness, then paused one moment to breathe and observe, devoid of desire, and found an unnameable happiness. 204. Freedom from disease is supreme blessing. Knowing sufficiency is supreme wealth. Truthfulness between each other is the supreme kinship. Nibbana is the supreme bliss. Health is great fortune. Contentment is great riches. Faithful living gives genuine bonds. Nibbana is the ultimate joy. You may have thought wealth necessary for happiness, but then met someone living simply, with bright eyes and gentle voice, because they know sufficiency and are free of deceit and suffering. 205. Having tasted the bitterness of longing, one enjoys the sweetness of serene ease, no fear, no harm. Having tasted the joy of the teaching, even alone one is not lonely, silence is not cold. One who knows how to live with oneself begins to taste true peace. You may have sat alone an entire afternoon, no social media, no conversation, just quiet reflection, and felt a strange joy, needing nothing, yet feeling full. 206. How fortunate to live among the noble and share their joy. How seldom do the foolish find peace. To dwell near the wise is a blessing. To be far from the foolish is a blessing, not out of hate, but because our hearts catch their influence. You may have lived among the angry and become angry yourself. Then you met a gentle soul, and your heart instantly calmed. That is the power of the mind. 207. To live long with fools brings sorrow and distress. Better to treat fools as enemies than stay close to them. How joyous to be near the wise, as near as kin. Fools do not know their own folly and drag others astray. Being near them is suffering. Being near the wise is as comforting as being with family. You may have endured envy and rivalry, only to grow weary. Then, returning to a kind friend, a single word warmed your heart. 208. Wise sages of integrity, those versed in precepts, self-disciplined saints, draw near to the virtuous and learned. Like the moon following the stars. If you wish to shine, be near the light. If you wish to be noble, be near the noble. Not for dependence, but to reflect their radiance under the same sky. You may have known a teacher who spoke little but lived rightly, and you aspired to be like them, not for show but for their true brightness. 209. When we first find tranquility, our hearts lighten and minds brighten. Yet life does not end there. Grief comes, not from blame but from impermanence. Loved ones depart. Nothing can be held, and suffering returns. Therefore the Buddha bids us look deeper, to understand, to accept, to transform. And this is where chapter 16, Compassion, begins. 210. Mere diligence is not enough. One must focus on what matters and abandon clinging to praise, envy, and rivalry. Some devote themselves to wrong. Some neglect the right. Some chase pleasure and aversion instead of liberation, and jeer at those who strive. You may have seen one waste their days on worldly matters and mock sincere practice, yet they themselves drift farthest from the path. 211. Do not cling to the beloved, nor hold to the hated. To love and not meet causes pain. To meet the hated also wounds. Both love and hate bind. You may have longed to meet someone, only to find old wounds upon reunion, and realized attachment itself is suffering. 212. From attachment arises grief and fear. One freed from craving knows neither grief nor fear. Love begets fear of loss. Clinging breeds dread. Only in releasing attachment does one taste true peace. You may have feared losing something precious. When you let it go, all fear vanished. 2:13. Clinging love begets grief and fear. One liberated from attachment knows neither. Attachment is mental entanglement like a vine around a tree. Cut the vine, and the tree stands free. You may have felt suffocated by a past relationship until you stepped away, then your heart grew light. 2:14. Even joyful attachment brings grief and fear. One freed from clinging joy knows neither. Clinging to happiness leads to fear of its end. You may have reveled in delight but then trembled at its passing, and realized that joy itself, when clung to, becomes suffering. 2:15. Sensual craving births grief and fear. One freed from desire knows neither. Desire is grasping, clinging, seeking satisfaction. Out of it arises worry and disappointment. One free of desire flows like water or cloud. You may have yearned deeply for something. When unfulfilled, you suffered, and when fulfilled, you feared losing it. Only when desire fell away did you laugh in freedom. 2:16. Craving breeds grief and fear. One who abandons craving knows neither. Craving is the root of rebirth. A single thread of attachment can bind a lifetime. Only the one who severs that thread rests in lasting peace. You may have relinquished an obsession and found your life brighter and lighter. That is the strength of non-attachment. 2:17. One with precepts, virtue, and right view, dwelling in the teaching and attaining truth, performs their own work and is beloved by all. Such a one needs no display, yet is honored for their genuine, serene conduct. Their quiet example wins hearts. You may have met someone who taught not by words, but by presence, and all revered them. That is virtue and wisdom made manifest. 2:18. Aspire to the teaching that transcends speech and thought. Delight in liberation and qualify as the highest. Nobility is not wealth, but freedom from evil craving, from empty words, dwelling in a free mind. You may have known someone of simple means whose gentle speech and silent presence drew others to stillness. That is the character of the truly noble. 2:19. A long-absent guest returns home safely. Kin and friends rejoice. Yet there is a greater return, returning to oneself. You may have seen someone lost for years suddenly meditate and study, and watch them come home to their own heart. 2:20. Meritorious deeds greet the righteous from this life to the next as kin welcome a traveler home. Merit is what we carry, irretrievable by others. It greets us like family when we arrive. You may have quietly done a kindness unknown to all, only to find your days suddenly filled with gentle fortune, and realized merit was welcoming you. 2:21. After teaching of attachment and release, the Buddha turns to another powerful and perilous force, anger. Craving clings, attachment binds, but anger burns, scorching precepts, consuming merit, burning relationships. Thus the section on anger follows, Dhammapada, chapter 17, Anger. 2:22. Abandon anger and conceit. Rise above every fetter without clinging to name or form. Anger, pride, and personal identity are easy traps of bondage. One who relinquishes them holds nothing yet suffers nothing, because they have nothing left to lose. You may have known someone poor yet peaceful, without status yet serene. They were light because they clung to nothing. 2:23. Who curbs wrath like a charioteer halts a whirlwind. One who reigns in surging anger is the true master, like one who stops a speeding chariot. Those who merely keep appearances have not yet truly tamed themselves. You may have almost yelled at someone, then paused, breathed, and spoke gently. At that moment you conquered yourself. 2:24. Overcome anger with non-anger. Overcome unkindness with kindness. Overcome greed with generosity. Overcome deceit with truth. Do not fight fire with fire or repay evil with evil. Extinguish anger with compassion. Dispel wrong with right. That is the way of the wise. You may have yielded when wronged, not from weakness, but because the wise do not retaliate with the same weapon. 2:25. The holy do not harm any being. Ever governed by self-control, they reach the deathless state and cast off all sorrow. They refrain from harming through body, speech, or mind, thus create no evil karma, and attain the state beyond birth and death, nibbana, free from suffering. You may have met one whose every step, gaze, and word inflicted no harm. Such a one embodies true sanctity. 226. How blessed are those ever awake, day and night diligent in practice, steadfastly turning toward nibbana, until all fetters are dissolved. Not just a few moments of meditation, but living in mindfulness every moment. Each word, each thought, each deed is directed toward liberation. You may have experienced a day of clear awareness, free from anger or comparison. That is a day untouched by ignorance. 227. Know this, in times past and now, sitting silently draws criticism, speaking draws criticism, even speaking moderately draws criticism. To live without ever being blamed is nearly impossible. Whether you speak or remain silent, whether you excel or falter, the world will always find fault. Therefore, do not live by praise or blame, but by the clarity of your own mind. You may have been criticized despite your best efforts and learned that it wasn't your shortcomings but the nature of the world. 228. Neither the past nor the future holds someone forever blamed or someone forever praised. No one is condemned for life, nor glorified eternally. Do not become proud when acclaimed, nor despair when criticized. Both are but wind. You may have been lauded only to be misunderstood later and learn to rest in your own virtue, not in the words of others. 229. Each morning, examine carefully. The truly wise commend the faultless, those who embody precepts, concentration, and wisdom. The worthy are honored not for eloquence, but for genuine integrity. You may have admired someone unassuming whose presence radiated peace, because their practice was true. 230. A life of radiant virtue is like pure gold. It needs no coloring. Even the devas praise such one, and Brahma extols them. True virtue, like real gold, fearlessly endures fire. One of genuine conduct fears no judgment. You may have known someone of uncompromising integrity who needed no defense. Their life spoke for itself. 231. Guard your body against anger. Skillfully keep it safe. Abandon harmful deeds. With the body, perform acts of kindness. If the body is left uncontrolled, it will strike, harm, and create bad karma. If kept in check, it bows, helps, and protects. To guard the body is to secure a life of wholesome action. You may have regretted a single impulsive blow, losing everything from one moment's rage, so you understand. Guarding the body guards your whole life. 232. Guard your speech against anger, skillfully guard it. Abandon harsh words. With your speech, speak kindness. Words can be like knives or like streams. To guard speech is to grant peace to others and spare yourself suffering. You may have spoken a cruel word that wounded someone deeply, and learned that gentle speech outweighs the weight of harm. 233. Guard your mind against anger, skillfully guard it. Abandon vicious thoughts, nurture wholesome intentions. The mind is the root of body and speech. A corrupt mind gives rise to evil words and deeds. Therefore, guarding the mind is safeguarding your entire being. You may have spent a day thinking only of goodness, and found that your words, actions, and rest all became peaceful. 234. The wise protect body, speech, and mind. Those three deeds of body, speech, and thought. If any door is left unguarded, unwholesome karma arises. If all three are held, they form the gates to liberation. The truly wise leave no door open. You may have controlled your speech while your body trembled, or disciplined your body while your mind wandered, but only when all three align is practice authentic. Anger is a flame that scorches merit, yet more insidious are the hidden defilements of the mind, which quietly darken life. After teaching on anger, the Buddha addresses these impurities, and that is the subject of chapter 18, Impurities. 235. Imagine your life as a withered leaf awaiting you at death's door. You stand at the threshold of dying, your journey's provisions nearly spent. Life is like a leaf at season's end, breath weakening, death poised nearby. Yet sadly, most travel unprepared. No warm cloak, no provisions, no knowledge of the destination, and so they wander lost in darkness. 236. Be your own island. Energetic, clear-sighted, removing defilements and purifying yourself to the sacred domain. No deity is your refuge. You must become your own refuge. Through diligent mindfulness and purity of heart, you will reach safety. It is like being caught in a flood. You cannot rely on another to rescue you. You must swim to shore yourself. 237. Your life now wanes, drawing near to Yama, the Lord of Death. Along the path there is no resting place, no provisions remain. Again the Buddha reminds us, time is nearly gone. Death awaits at the road's end. There is no pause, no substitute, and your pack remains empty. You may have known an elderly person who has not practiced, like a vehicle running out of fuel with no station in sight. 238. Be your own island. Energetic, clear, cleansing defilements, pure. No return to youth is possible. Once awakened, practice without delay. Once you see, wash away the impurities. With no defilements in your mind, you will not be reborn into suffering. Like a clear stream, having shaken off all mud, never to be muddied again. 239. The wise remove defilements moment by moment, like a goldsmith sifting dust grain by grain, cleansing impurities within themselves. It need not be done in one day, but through steadfast effort, little by little. You may have discarded a bad habit not in a single moment, but over many days of mindfulness. 240. Just as iron corrodes itself from within, so does unchecked greed eat away at one's own being. Harm arises not from outside, but from the lust that grows within. One who lives for wealth and fame allows karma to erode them like rust and dampness, not from an external strike. 241. Do not merely recite the scriptures superficially and neglect their meaning. Laziness soils both body and mind. A guardian who does not study forgets the teaching. Without reverence, the place of practice grows cold. Indolence darkens the spirit. Without vigilance, the gatekeeper of the mind becomes defiled. Upholding mindfulness is like polishing the shrine of wisdom. 242. Corrupt conduct, adultery, greed, accepting stain, embracing evil, is the true impurity. In this life and the next, it is not the body that defile but immoral actions and unwholesome deeds. Such stains cannot be washed by water, but only by the cultivation of precepts, concentration, and wisdom. 243. Among these impurities, ignorance is supreme. Upon abandoning it, the monk becomes undefiled. All defilements spring from ignorance. Blindness to truth is the source of all suffering. Once ignorance is cut away, no further stain remains. You may have blamed others, but when you deeply understood the cause, your heart softened as light dispelled the darkness. 244. How easy it is to live without shame. Reckless, heedless like the fruit of the bull's foot vine, destructive and misguided. Living carelessly, aggressively, catering only to base instincts is easy, but that easy path is not the right one. 245. How difficult it is to live with dignity, to seek purity, to live without attachment, with humility and clarity. Difficult, yet worthwhile. Difficult, yet the mindful and self-aware maintain themselves. You may have met someone ready to say, "I'm sorry," and seen in their eyes the grace of genuine remorse. 246. Whoever slays, lies, is insincere, steals what is not given, defile another's spouse, indulges excessively in intoxicants, lives in unrestrained passion, such a one digs their own grave in this very life. These 5 are the roots of suffering. One who commits them need not wait for the next life to see their consequences. Like someone removing their own foundation, they collapse within their own existence. 247. Therefore, one should know, lack of restraint is harm. Do not let craving or unwholesome deeds cause suffering. Insight. If you do not govern yourself, you become your own victim. Unchecked desire leads you astray. Suffering does not come from outside, but from neglecting to guard oneself. 248. It is through faith and delight of heart that beings give. One who feels envy at another's food and drink cannot attain concentration day or night. Jealousy at another's welfare is kindling fire in one's own heart, while rejoicing in another's good brings inner coolness. 249. Whoever severs that root, eradicates envy at its source and uproots it, attains meditative absorption day and night. Concentration arises not from long sitting, but from complete letting go. When envy is destroyed, peace naturally appears without seeking. 250. What fire compares to the fire of craving? What chains compare to the bonds of anger? What net compares to the spiderweb of ignorance? What river compares to the stream of attachment? As long as one clings, one drifts. 251. How easy it is to see others' faults. How difficult to see one's own. Others' faults are sieved out like husks in rice. One's own faults are hidden like a cheat concealing cards. The wise are not those who expose others' faults, but those who recognize and correct their own. 252. Whoever sees others' faults and criticizes them only increases their own fetters. Fault-finding does not aid awakening, but nourishes pride and obscures wisdom. 253. Space conceals no footprints. Here, beings delight in vain debate, but the Tathagata's debate eradicates it. 254. Space harbors no footprints. Monks' deeds are not permanent. Those who heed the Buddhas remain unmoved. 255. The final verses of this chapter reveal a profound truth. The path of the awakened is like the sky, trackless and beyond speculation, argument, or outward form. People debate right and wrong, but the Tathagata, freed from all attachments, abandons debate. Truth needs no defense, and awakening no proof. Like space, no trail remains. The genuine practitioner leaves no mark of self or sect. 256. It is not by rigid rule that one abides in the Dhamma. The truly resolute discern both right and wrong. One cannot claim to live by the teaching if they wield power and cling to views. The noble always practice restraint. Conduct matters more than words. 257. Without coercion but with fairness, they guide others. The wise live by the true Dhamma. No force, no favoritism, no loud proclamations. Only just, lawful guidance. 258. Not by eloquence does one prove wisdom. Serenity without fear or resentment is the clear sign of true wisdom. Many words do not equal understanding. Understanding does not demand many words. 259. Nor by hearing much does one truly uphold the teaching. Those who hear little, yet live rightly and avoid indulgence are genuine keepers of the Dhamma. One's practice is measured not by the number of verses memorized, but by living in accord with the teaching. Few words, deep understanding, and right living. This is true guardianship of the Dhamma. 260. Not merely as an aged elder does one gain respect. Age alone does not bring wisdom. Gray hair does not warrant veneration. Without moral conduct, one is merely old, not an elder. 261. Whoever is sincere, lawful, harmless, self-restrained, and undefiled is rightly called an elder. One who lives rightly, harms none, speaks truthfully, disciplines themselves, and keeps a pure mind is a true elder, regardless of age. 262. Not by fluent speech or pleasing appearance does one prove integrity. If envy, greed, or deceit dwell within, outward polish is meaningless. A truly virtuous person must be pure at heart, free of envy, greed, and falsehood, not merely skilled at presenting virtue. 263. Whoever eradicates envy at the root is called a kind and virtuous person. No one is born saintly. Kindness arises when one uproots anger. Only the one entirely free of resentment merits the title kind. 264. A shaved head alone does not make a monk if one lives with indulgence. Whoever remains full of craving cannot be called a monk. Monastic life is not defined by appearance. If one's mouth lies and heart clings, they are not a monk, whether in monastery or lay community. But one who fully relinquishes every wrongdoing, by heart, by speech, by deed, is naturally a monk, without need for ordination rites. 265. Simply begging alms does not make one a bhikkhu. One must live by the complete teaching. To beg without living the Dhamma, and without upholding the precepts and mindfulness, is to be no more than a mendicant in robes. 266. Whoever transcends good and evil, living entirely in moral restraint and keen self-awareness, is rightly called a bhikkhu. A bhikkhu surpasses both praise and blame, living by virtue and keenly observing the mind amid the world. 267. Silence alone does not make a hermit. Like one holding scales, the wise discern goodness. Silence without understanding is mere ignorance. A true recluse is one who, like a scale-bearer, chooses the wholesome and abandons the unwholesome. 268. To abandon all unwholesome deeds is the mark of a true recluse. Only one who understands both this life and the next, free from the drift of emotions, is a genuine recluse. 269. Whoever kills living beings cannot be called a sage. Only one who harms no living creature, neither insect nor enemy, can be called a sage. Only when the mind is free of harmful intent is one truly a holy being in the world. 270. It is not mere abstention from wrongdoing, nor study, nor mastery of meditation. Living in solitude, keeping precepts, learning widely, and meditating, these are good, but not sufficient. 271. I enjoy peace and happiness. Layfolk have not yet tasted it. Monks should not assume they have reached it if fetters remain. No matter how long one practices or how sweet meditation's bliss, if defilements linger in the mind, do not trust yourself complete. And when a practitioner earnestly examines themselves, measures less by others' faults and more by living the real, Chapter 20 The Path opens, where the Buddha reveals the single way of liberation, the Noble Eightfold Path. Here the awakened deepen their journey of mindfulness, stepping the path moment by moment with each mindful breath. 272. The Eightfold Path is supreme mastery, for truths are supreme mastery, release from craving, mastery over realms, two steadies of Dhamma, and the eye of wisdom supreme. The Buddha proclaims the Noble Eightfold Path as the most exalted way, not just in words but in principle, in teaching, and in practice. These 8 paths converge into one mind, carrying the practitioner beyond all darkness. One who attains the Dhamma eye, seeing truth clearly, is the supreme victor among humanity. 248. Therefore you should know, lack of self-control is harmful. Do not let craving or unwholesome deeds bring suffering. Insight. If you fail to master yourself, you become your own victim. Uncontrolled desire will lead you astray. Suffering arises not from outside, but from your own failure to guard yourself. 249. It is through faith of heart and true delight that people give generously. Whoever feels envy when seeing others eat and drink cannot achieve concentration by day or night. Jealousy kindles fire in the heart, while rejoicing in another's welfare brings cool relief. 250. Whoever severs envy at its very root, uprooting it completely, attains meditative absorption day and night. True concentration arises not from long sitting, but from utterly letting go. Once envy is destroyed, peace emerges naturally, without search. 251. What fire equals the fire of clinging? What chain equals the chain of anger? What net equals the web of ignorance? What river equals the current of attachment? As long as one clings, one drifts. 252. How easy it is to see others' faults. How hard to see one's own. Others' faults are like husks sifted from rice. One's own faults are hidden like a cheat's concealed card. The wise are not those who expose others' wrongs, but those who perceive and correct their own. 253. Whoever finds fault with others only strengthens their own fetters. Criticizing others does not aid awakening. It fuels pride and obscures insight. 254. Space bears no footprint. Here, beings love idle debate, but the Tathagata's true discourse dispels it. 255. Space bears no footprint. Monks' actions are not permanent. Those who heed the Buddhas remain unmoved. 256. The final verses of this chapter unveil a deep truth. The awakened path is like the sky, trackless and beyond all speculation, argument, or outward form. People argue over right and wrong, but the Tathagata, free from all attachments, lets go of debate. Truth needs no defense, awakening no proof. Like space, no trail remains. A genuine practitioner leaves no imprint of self or sect. 257. It is not rigid decree that keeps one in the Dhamma. The truly steadfast discern both right and wrong. One cannot claim to live by the teaching if they wield power and cling to views. The noble always practice restraint. Conduct matters more than words. 258. Without coercion but with fairness, they guide others. The wise live by the true Dhamma. No force, no favoritism, no loud claims, only just, lawful direction. 259. Not by eloquence does one prove wisdom. Serenity without resentment or fear is the clear sign of true insight. Many words do not guarantee understanding. Those who understand need not speak much. 260. Nor by hearing much does one truly uphold the teaching. Those who hear little but live rightly and avoid indulgence are genuine guardians of the Dhamma. True practice is measured not by the number of verses memorized, but by living according to the teaching. Few words, deep understanding, and right living. This is true fidelity to the Dhamma. 261. Not simply as an aged elder does one earn respect. Age alone does not bring wisdom. Gray hair does not merit veneration. Without moral conduct, one is merely old, not a true elder. 262. Whoever is sincere, lawful, harmless, self-disciplined, and undefiled is rightly called an elder. One who lives rightly, harms none, speaks truthfully, masters themselves, and keeps a pure mind is a true elder, regardless of years. 263. Not by fluent speech or pleasing appearance does one prove virtue. If envy, greed, or deceit dwell within, outward polish is meaningless. True integrity arises in the heart, free from envy, greed, and falsehood, not merely an outward display. 264. Whoever uproots envy completely is called a kind and virtuous person. No one is born saintly. Kindness arises when one eradicates anger at its source. Only one entirely free of resentment truly deserves the title kind. 265. A shaved head alone does not make a monk if one lives in indulgence. Whoever remains full of craving cannot be called a monk. Monastic life is not defined by appearance. If one's words lie and heart clings, they are not a monk, whether in monastery or lay community. But one who fully relinquishes every wrongdoing, by mind, speech, and deed, is naturally a monk, without need for ordination rites. 266. Simply begging alms does not make one a bhikkhu. One must live by the complete teaching. To beg without living the Dhamma, without upholding the precepts and mindfulness, is only to wear the robes of a mendicant. 267. Whoever transcends both good and evil, living wholly in moral restraint and keen self-awareness, is rightly called a bhikkhu. A true bhikkhu surpasses both praise and blame, living by virtue and ever observing the mind amid the world. 268. Silence alone does not make a hermit. Like one holding scales, the wise discern the good. Silence without understanding is mere ignorance. A true recluse is one who, like a scale-bearer, chooses the wholesome and abandons the unwholesome. 269. To abandon all unwholesome deeds is the mark of a true recluse. Only one who comprehends both this life and the next, free from the drift of emotions, is a genuine recluse. 270. Whoever slays living beings cannot be called a sage. Only one who harms no creature, neither insect nor enemy, can be called a sage. Only when the mind is free of intent to harm is one truly a holy being in the world. 271. It is not mere abstention from wrongdoing, nor study, nor mastery of meditation. Living in solitude, keeping precepts, learning widely, and meditating, these are good, but not sufficient. 272. I enjoy peace and happiness. Lay people have not yet tasted it. Monks should not assume they have reached it if defilements remain. No matter how long one practices or how sweet meditation's bliss, if residues of craving linger, do not trust yourself complete. When a practitioner earnestly examines themselves, measures less by others' faults and more by living in truth, then chapter 20, The Path, opens, where the Buddha reveals the single way of liberation, the Noble Eightfold Path. Here the awakened deepen their journey of mindfulness, stepping the path moment by moment with each mindful breath. 273. These 8 right paths are supreme, formed of right view, intention, speech, action, livelihood, effort, mindfulness, and concentration. Master these 8, and you are supreme among humankind. The Buddha proclaims the Noble Eightfold Path as the loftiest way, not merely in words but in principle, in teaching, and in practice. These 8 paths converge into one mind, carrying the practitioner beyond all darkness, One who attains the eye of Dhamma and sees truth clearly is truly supreme among beings. 274. This path, and no other, leads to pure vision. If you stray from this way, the hosts of delusion will ensnare you. No other road but the Noble Eightfold Path brings true purity. It is the only way for a practitioner to perceive the nature of all phenomena and eradicate ignorance. The hosts of delusion, symbols of the forces of ignorance, cannot touch one firmly treading this path. 275. You must zealously follow what the Tathagata has taught. Practice meditation diligently, and you will break the bonds of demons. The Buddha bestows no miracles, only the way. The practitioner must step forth with persistent enthusiasm. By living mindfully, the fetters of lust, anger, and affliction will fall away. 276. All conditioned things are impermanent. Seeing this with wisdom, one grows indifferent to suffering. Indeed, the path to purity, all compounded phenomena arise and pass. When insight beholds their nature, the practitioner loses all attachment. This is not negativity but mindful release. From it, the mind attains purity. 277. All conditioned things cause suffering. Seeing this with wisdom, one grows indifferent to distress. The path to purity, not only impermanent, but inherently unsatisfactory because ever-changing and seldom as wished. Seeing this clearly, the wise do not cling, but turn inward to dwell in deep stillness. 278. All phenomena are non-self. Seeing this with wisdom, one grows indifferent to suffering. The path to purity, when one perceives there is no fixed I, no enduring self in phenomena, all attachments dissolve. This is the deepest insight, the gateway to full liberation. 279. Without effort, even youth and strength are wasted. Sloth and feebleness of mind cannot find the true path. The Buddha warns practitioners, without diligence, youth's vigor is useless. Laziness is a hidden foe. It delays your journey of awakening, withers wisdom, and bars the mind from the path. 280. Speak with care and guard your thoughts prudently. Let your body do no harm. Keep all threefold deeds pure. The holy teach, body, speech, and mind are the gates of karma's fruits. The practitioner must keep all three pure. This is prerequisite for the holy path. 281. Practice meditation to cultivate wisdom. Abandon meditation, and wisdom fades. Know that the way splits into two, one leading to suffering, the other to release, and strive to foster wisdom. One who meditates waters their wisdom. Meditation is not mere stillness, but a way of seeing and living, knowing which path leads to rebirth and which to nibbana. That is true wisdom. 282. Do not fell only branches, but cut at the root, like clearing a tangled forest of desire. Desire is like a dense, dangerous wood. You must cut at the root, not merely prune. A practitioner must uproot the very causes of attachment, not just remove surface habits. 283. As long as you have not completely cut desire's cords, your mind remains bound, like a calf tethered to its mother. Even if you live in seclusion, if the heart still clings to desire, you remain yoked like that calf. Liberation lies not in outward form, but in the mind's freedom. 284. Sever the bonds of desire as one snaps the stem of a lotus. Cultivate the serene path to nibbana. A virtuous teacher teaches, be like the one who cleanly breaks the lotus stem. Cutting desire's cord admits no hesitation, for only a pure mind can enter the stream of nibbana. 285. In the rainy season I dwell here, in the cold season I dwell here. The foolish remain wrapped in complacency, unaware of the lurking danger. They busy themselves with planning shelter, forgetting that impermanence approaches with every breath, like standing before a whirlpool, mistaking it for meadow. 286. Those whose minds cling to children and livestock are swept away like a village in flood. Slumbering in desire, they remain blind to death's approach, like a nighttime deluge that carries all away without warning. 287. When death arrives, no child shields you. No parent, no kin or friend can protect you. When the final breath departs, nothing you have clung to remains. The wise live in constant mindfulness, never letting themselves slip into forgetfulness. 288. Knowing this meaning, the wise guard their precepts, hasten to purify the path to nibbana. The wise, knowing impermanence, keep precepts and mind undefiled, not letting days drift by in heedlessness. For the way to nibbana is not for the careless. And thus, from the light of the teaching, practitioners are shown each step to escape the round of rebirth. But the journey does not end here. Chapter 21, Miscellaneous Dhammas, continues. 289. By renouncing small pleasures, one perceives greater joy. The wise relinquish petty delights to behold the grander bliss beyond. Like one dropping a grain of sand to seize a pearl drifting by. Worldly pleasures are sweet but small. If clung to, they rob you of the deeper joy of tranquil freedom. The enlightened see this and readily forego fleeting comforts to touch something profound. 290. Sowing suffering for others to gain pleasure for oneself binds one in chains of hatred from which there is no escape. One who seeks happiness by causing harm is like a person lighting a fire on their own roof. The flames will consume them. He who sows sorrow for others cannot expect his own peace. The very hatred he sows becomes the iron chain that binds him. 291. Failing to do what should be done, doing what should not, pride and negligence, and thriving fetters will grow. Some tasks demand immediate action, like repairing a leak before the rain. Yet the proud and lazy chase vanity, neglect practice, and know not right from wrong. Thus defilement grows day by day. 292. The diligent are mindful of the body, avoid the unwholesome, and pursue the wholesome. The wise are ever vigilant, and defilements are gradually purged. In contrast, the diligent leave no day wasted. They observe body, mind, and each breath, know what to avoid, and where to focus mindful thought, so that in each moment the stagnant waters of defilement are gently filtered away. 293. Having slain mother and father, having killed 2 kings, destroyed nations and ministers, yet one lives without grief. Having slain mother, slain a Brahmin noble, slain the 5th warrior, yet one lives without grief. These verses employ profound metaphor. Slaying mother is uprooting craving. Father is cutting wrong view. The 2 kings are the 2 false views, soul view and annihilation view. The kingdom and ministers are the 5 aggregates and myriad defilements. Whoever destroys those will live without sorrow, for the sources of all suffering have been eradicated. 294. A disciple of Gautama is ever self-aware, day or night. Reflect on the Buddha often. Keep the mind turned toward him, not merely in words of praise, but in every action, every breath, every thought. Recollection of the Buddha is remembrance of his perfect qualities and the full wakefulness you, too, may attain. 295. A disciple of Gautama is ever self-aware, day or night. Reflect on the true teaching often. Recollect the path that leads beyond ignorance, avoiding false views, twisted thoughts, and unwholesome deeds, like a lamp that pierces the darkest night. 320. An elephant trained is presented at gatherings. A horse trained is mounted by a king. A supreme one trained endures all insults. Not every creature can be brought into battle. Likewise, not everyone can carry the Dhamma. Those who have been trained, who know how to endure, who know how to listen, and who do not react hastily. These are people with the greatest inner strength. They are the true masters in worldly life. 321. Excellent indeed is the domesticated donkey, the offspring of a wild ass. The great elephant has tusks, yet is self-disciplined. The precious creature is the one who obeys its trainer and masters itself, not beauty or fame, but the power of inner reflection. Whoever turns inward recognizes mental fabrications, and thus trains his mind to calmness. That one is truly noble. 322. It is not the ridden creature that takes one to nirvana. Only one who truly disciplines oneself reaches the destination. No elephant, no horse, no chariot, nor any material vehicle can carry us to the shore of liberation. There is only one path: mastering oneself, mastering the mind, mastering one's actions. That is the great raft that carries us across the ocean of Sasra. 323. The elephant named lust is wild by nature, hard to control, bound yet starving, longing for the forest. When craving arises, one's mind is like a wild tusker, obstinate and untrainable. Then all advice is in vain. One must return to the quiet forest where the mind can be still. Only then might one see oneself clearly. 324. Those who love sleep, eat excessively, and roll about idly are no different from well-fed pigs. The foolish remain in such conditions, living in heedlessness, eating and sleeping, indulging themselves, drifting through life. Then that existence is no different from that of beasts. Such persons at death must return not because someone punishes them, but because they have not yet learned the lesson of mindfulness. 325. Formerly, the mind was careless, running after sensual pleasures. Now I refrain and restrain it as one holds an elephant with a hook. The Buddha himself was once heedless like many, but he saw the true nature of attachment, and from that insight he grasped firmly the rope of mindfulness like a trainer guiding an elephant, leading his mind along the right path. We can do likewise if we know how to turn back to ourselves. Let us rejoice, not indulge, skillfully guard the mind, pulling ourselves away from the wretched paths as one pulls a stuck elephant from the mire of defilements. One must pull oneself out by observing the precepts, sustaining mindfulness, and practicing introspection. No one else can do it for us. The Buddha merely pointed the way, but the one who walks it is ourselves. 326. If one is fortunate to have wise and virtuous friends with whom to live righteously, mastering all dangers and rejoicing in mindfulness, such companions can guide one beyond suffering. If you meet such friends, cherish them. One does not often have the blessing to dwell among such noble ones. And if you do not forget humility and the eagerness to learn. 327. Excellent indeed are wise friends with whom to live in good conduct. Like a king abandoning his kingdom when defeated, let one live alone, solitary as an elephant in the forest. An elephant has no close companions, yet does not, out of loneliness, associate with unwholesome beings. It is better to learn to live alone like an elephant in deep woods, without clamor, without disturbance, yet free and steadfast. 328. Better than living in companionship with fools is to live alone, having no evil deeds, living carefree and unconstrained like an elephant in the forest. Alone yet not lonely, alone yet full of peace, not drawn by gossip. One should not live falsely just to fit in. Whoever understands the value of solitude will see it as a great gift of life. 329. How joyful it is to have friends when needed. How joyful it is to live contentedly. How joyful it is to die with virtue. How joyful it is that all suffering is ended. These are the four great joys of life: to have friends in due time, to live with sufficient means, to die possessing virtue, and to be freed from all suffering. If one has all four, there will be no regrets in this life. 330. Joyous is one who honors one's mother. Joyous is one who honors one's father. Joyous is one who honors the ascetic. Joyous is one who honors the wise and holy. Filial piety is the root of the path. One who respects mother and father understands the path. One who honors the ascetic values the spiritual. One who reveres the wise is sowing the seeds of future wisdom. 331. Joyous indeed is growing old with the precepts intact. Joyous is dwelling in firm faith. Joyous is acquiring wisdom. Joyous is refraining from evil. To maintain the precepts into old age is a great blessing. To uphold steady faith is a reliable refuge. To possess wisdom and see clearly what is right is light in darkness, and to do no wrong is true peace. 332. Thus, the chapter of the elephant has carried us on a very special journey, from the image of an elephant in battle to lessons on solitude, training the mind, and choosing companions. Next comes a very remarkable chapter where the Buddha speaks of what lies deep in the darkness of the mind, the origin of hells and heavenly realms. Listen in the Dhammapada, chapter 24, Craving. 333. Those who live heedless, bound by desire like vines, leap from life to life like monkeys seeking fruits in the forest. Whoever lives unrestrained, not guarding the mind, will see desire grow. It is like a vine winding around a tree, never stopping. Such a one cannot break free in one lifetime, but must hop from life to life, like a starving monkey endlessly chasing sweet fruit. The more one craves, the more one is caught in samsara. 334. Those who live in this world, bound by desire, will have sorrow grow like by grass at the first rain. Whoever lives allowing desire to bind them cannot be at peace. Sorrow within grows day by day, like parched grass that springs up at the rain. In the same way, desire is the condition for the arising of sorrow. Rain falls on grass, craving falls on the mind. 335. Those who live in this world and have tamed desire, sorrow will fall away from them like droplets from a lotus leaf. If one tames desire, sorrow no longer holds them, like water sliding off a lotus leaf and vanishing. That mind is not entangled by thirst. The body is present in the world, but the mind is free as the lotus rising from the mud. 336. Hear this, you gathered here. Uproot craving at its root like uprooting by grass, and do not let Mara ruin you. Like water sweeping away reeds, the Buddha reminds us. These are precious teachings for those seeking the path together. He does not say to avoid only the top, but to uproot desire from its source, like pulling up the root of by grass, otherwise it will grow back. If you do not do so, craving will carry you away like a current, and the demon king will use that very craving to bind you in the cycle of rebirth. 337. As a tree once cut remains alive while its root is intact, as long as the root of craving remains, this suffering endures. Some think they have escaped suffering by breaking off the leaves, but if the root rapture of craving is not removed, it will sprout again, like embers that still glow, needing only a breeze to blaze anew. 338. There are 36 currents of craving, one who cuts off all craving, the currents of thought that sweep away. In the world, there are 36 currents of desire, 36 directions of mental hunger. Whoever is swept away by these beloved thoughts, attachments, and clinging will wander endlessly in samsara. Like high waters that carry a person off, the more one clings, the more one is carried away. 339. The stream of craving flows everywhere like vines spreading without limit. Seeing the vine's vibrant green, one with wisdom should cut it at its root. It does not run in a single direction, but extends from the base to the tip, reaching every place. When one notices the mind beginning to crave, the wise should recognize it immediately and remove it at its point of origin. Do not let it coil around you. Pulling it out early is easy. Pulling it out late is difficult once it has grown deep and the body has become entangled. 340. People remember sensual craving and delight in pleasures. Although they long for happiness, they must still suffer birth, old age, and death. Ordinary folk think of sensual pleasures, eyes craving beauty, ears craving sweet sounds, the body craving comfort, but all such joy is fleeting. They wish for happiness yet go the wrong way, for that path leads to birth and aging. They desire a warm flame, yet refuse to accept that the flame will die out. 341. One bound by craving struggles and panics like a rabbit caught in a snare. The more it struggles, the more desperate it becomes. Craving is a rope woven from hopes and desires. It binds the mind tightly, leaving the person restless, unsatisfied, and confused. 342. One bound by craving struggles and panics like a rabbit caught in a snare. Therefore, the monk who longs to be free from craving must subdue sensual desire. This image of the rabbit in the net serves as a reminder to the practitioner. If one wishes to escape the cycle of rebirth, one must cut craving completely. One cannot cling to craving and expect liberation. One who wishes to cross the river must dare to leave the shore. 343. Leaving one forest only to head toward another, escaping one snare, then running into another. Such a person is said to be free from bondage, yet chases after new bonds. Some think they have left the forest of craving, but then seek out another grove to enter. Some give up one love, yet the heart still seeks another. They seem to have removed their chains only to bind themselves anew. This is not true freedom, but merely changing places. 344. Iron bars and thorny vines may bind the body, yet the mind sees them as insecure. Craving for wealth and jewelry, ambition for spouse and children. These iron fetters and thorny ropes, though harsh to behold, are easier to undo than greed. Greed is formless and unseen, yet binds not the body but the mind. The wise see that attachment to possessions, fame, or even to loved ones are all chains. 345. The wise say that these binds are indeed strong, pulling one down into the mire, and yet hard to escape. The wise cut them away, abandon sensual pleasures, and remain unmoved. They do not underestimate these binds. They know these ropes both weigh them down and drown them. Without regret they sever them. They relinquish desire not because they know no joy, but because they know that joy has thorns, and that smile draws blood. 346. Those who drown in sensual desire throw themselves into the current like a spider caught in its own web. The wise cut it away, relinquishing all suffering, and remain unmoved. The deluded are like a spider entrapped in its own web, thinking they will live by desire, yet dying because of it. Only the wise know when to stop. They let go of all suffering because they know no suffering is greater than that which one creates oneself. 347. Abandon past, present, and future. Arriving at the far shore of life, one's mind freed from all bonds should cling to nothing. This verse rings like a bell, awakening the prisoner. Let go of the past with no regret, release the present with no attachment, relinquish the future with no concern. Whoever releases all 3 times is called liberated. When one no longer chases, no longer clings, no longer resists, there is no rebirth, no aging, no death. 348. Whoever with wrong intention harbors sharp desire sees purity where it is not. Craving grows, making fetters that bind one tightly. Wrong intention is the root of false perception. The one defiled by craving sees form as pure, sees desire as happiness, sees bondage as love. Each such mistake tightens another loop around the heart. 349. Whoever rejoices in calmness, examines impurity, and practices constant mindfulness will destroy craving and cut the demon's bonds. The practitioner should contemplate impurity not out of aversion, but to avoid deception. Seeing the body as transient, as impure, the mind no longer clings to form. When the mind is peaceful and the heart is still, craving cannot sprout, and there is no place where it can attach. 350. Whoever reaches the goal without fear of parting from craving, without defilement, has pulled out the arrow of birth and death. This body is the final body. One who has reached the far shore fears no more, is undefiled, desires nothing. That one has drawn out the poisoned arrow of birth, suffering, and delusion. After this body, there is no return to the world, no more birth, no more death. 351. Whoever abandons clinging even to the words of the scriptures, skillfully speaks without obstruction, and sees through every layer of conditioned reality, understands what comes before and after. This body is the final body. Such a one is called of great wisdom, a great being. That one holds no attachment, understands all phenomena, speaks words unburdened, and sees clearly the workings of body, mind, and world, cause and effect. That one is called great wisdom, not because of vast memory, but because the heart is free. 352. I have tamed all things, I know them fully, and am not defiled by any phenomenon. I have abandoned all craving, destroyed myself, and am self-liberated. I call craving my teacher in this verse. The Buddha speaks of self-mastery, not defiled by any phenomenon, bound by no craving. He subdued all things by his own inner strength. Such a one who needs no teacher, when self is perfected, when wisdom has ripened, when nothing remains to learn, who then needs a teacher? 353. Giving the Dhamma surpasses all other gifts, flavor surpasses every flavor, the joy of understanding Dhamma surpasses every joy, and the ending of craving destroys all suffering. Giving the Dhamma is the highest of gifts among all tastes, knowing the Dhamma is the highest of tastes, and when craving is destroyed, suffering ceases. The Dhamma leads to complete cessation, that is the path ending suffering. 354. Wealth harms the foolish who do not seek the far shore. The foolish, because of greed for wealth, harm themselves and others. They think wealth will bring security, yet it breeds envy, suspicion, and strife. If they do not seek the far shore of liberation, wealth only sinks them deeper, causing suffering not only for themselves, but for family, society. 355. Weeds harm fields, and greed harms humans. Giving to one free from greed brings great fruit. Just as fields are harmed by weeds, so too mind and body are harmed by greed. To cultivate well-being, uproot weeds and abandon greed. One who is free from greed and gives with undistracted mind gains deep and lasting merit, because that gift is offered purely. 356. Weeds harm fields, and anger harms humans. Giving to one free from anger brings great fruit. Anger does not burn houses, yet it burns the mind. Without anger, one gives with calm mind, free from reproach, blame, or regret, and that merit is also more complete. 357. Weeds harm fields, and ignorance harms humans. Giving to one free from ignorance brings great fruit. Ignorance is blindness to right and wrong, doing for others, speaking what one hears. One who is free from ignorance gives to the right person at the right time in the right way, and giving with wisdom deepens that merit. 358. Weeds harm fields, and sensual desire harms humans. Giving to one free from sensual desire brings great fruit. Sensual desire is the root of much suffering. One who lives relinquishing desire, living with restraint, when giving expects no return, no gratitude, no praise, gives like a petal carried by the wind, light and undefiled. 359. How wholesome! Guarding the eye, guarding the ear, guarding the nose, guarding the tongue with virtue. The Buddha taught that the life of the practitioner begins not with great deeds, but with the smallest acts, such as guarding the 4 sense organs. First guard the eye so it does not cling to sights of beauty. First guard the ear, so sounds do not sway the mind, especially praise or criticism. First guard the nose, so enticing scents from food or perfume do not lure the mind. First guard the tongue, so speech and taste do not lead the heart astray. For example, a monk shopping for kitchen tools cannot avert his gaze from tempting displays of food. Once the mind dwells on delicious aromas, craving arises, then judgment and comparison follow, and the path is blocked by what seemed harmless pleasure. 361. Guarding the wholesome body, guarding wholesome speech, guarding wholesome mind. If one protects all three, one is freed from every suffering. Here the Buddha expands from the first 4 faculties to the 3 great actions: body, speech, and mind. He teaches, guarding the body means refraining from all harmful acts. Guarding speech means not lying, not using divisive words, not uttering harsh or frivolous talk. Guarding the mind means not letting it run loose after greed, hatred, or delusion. If one safeguards all 3, the monk walks the path of purity, neither swayed by the external world nor disturbed internally. An elder monk once said, "If you maintain these 3 each day, you have already traversed half the path to liberation." Indeed, whoever preserves even a little, body at peace, speech calm, mind clear, their steps are as light as clouds and their hearts as cool as a spring. No suffering can cling to them. 362. One who restrains hands and feet, restrains speech, and restrains mind, who delights in inner meditation, lives alone contentedly, and knows sufficiency. Such a one is truly a monk. A monk not only upholds the 3 actions, but also curbs bodily conduct, verbal conduct, and mental conduct. Restraining hands and feet means walking, standing, lying, and sitting with mindfulness. Restraining speech means not letting the mouth draw the mind into dispute. Restraining mind means reflecting and resolving to think wholesome thoughts. One who rejoices in meditation, lives alone without sadness, and knows just enough in every meal and every robe. That is one worthy of the monk's title. Like a young meditator who, instead of requesting many delicacies, takes only sufficient rice and vegetables. After eating, he sits beneath a tree in meditation. To the world he seems to possess nothing, yet in his heart he holds boundless serenity. That is the greatest treasure. 363. A monk restrains the tongue, speaks appropriately, and does not boast when explaining the Dhamma. His words are gentle and sweet. The Buddha clarifies speech karma. The practitioner should speak not only truthfully, but also fittingly, not loudly to overpower, not arrogantly to show superiority. When teaching, speech must be gentle, apt, and pleasing to hear. Some who know much speak with pride, alienating listeners. Others speak simply, but each word carries heartfelt compassion, touching the listener deeply. Like the young nun in my village, whenever she taught laypeople, she used no lofty terms, only life stories and the Buddha's teachings. Everyone nodded and shed tears because her words came from genuine compassion and experience. 364. A monk who loves the Dhamma, cherishes the Dhamma, contemplates the Dhamma in mind and reflection, clings to the true Dhamma, never abandoning it. This verse describes the mind that treasures the Dhamma. The The practitioner not only studies the Dhamma intellectually, but lives it wholeheartedly. They adore the Buddha's teachings, ponder each verse and rule, and never let their mind stray from the true Dhamma, whether in daily duties or during quiet meditation. For example, a young bhikkhu who each night before sleep rereads several verses of the Dhammapada, then sits in stillness reflecting on each line. Even on cold, rainy nights, he persists, for to him the Buddha's words are not mere letters, but light in the darkness of ignorance. 365. Do not disdain what you have, nor envy what others attain. A monk who despises peers cannot achieve deep meditation. This verse warns against envy. The practitioner must cultivate contentment and appreciate one's own accomplishments. If one despises one's own practice and envies others' attainments, positions, or fame, the mind becomes unsettled. An unsettled mind cannot enter deep meditation, cannot grow still, cannot perceive its true nature. For example, a long-practicing monk sees another beloved by all and feels jealousy. Whenever chanting his mind stirs, whenever meditating his heart is restless. In the end, despite many years of practice, he remains mediocre. His own envy became his greatest obstacle. 366. A monk impoverished in possessions yet content, who does not disdain what he has, lives in purity without laziness. Such one is praised by the Devas and commended by the Buddha for treasuring small gains. Even a little peace or a little mindfulness should not be underestimated, for every small step contributes to the long path. One who lives in purity and practices diligently without sloth, though unassuming, is revered by the celestial beings. Like a steady drizzle filling a pot over time, so too does consistent, diligent practice deepen merit like an ocean. 367. Fully abandoning attachment to name and form, not clinging to self or possessions, free from attachment and sorrow, truly worthy of the title monk. This verse goes to the heart of non-self. The practitioner must relinquish fixation on self and mind, no longer seeing reputation as self, no longer regarding the body as owned. When such attachments vanish, so too do sorrows. Such a one is truly deserving of the monk's title, a mendicant of truth walking the right path. Once a monk lost all his robes while traveling. His companion offered comfort, but the monk only smiled and said, "This body was never truly mine. So what is there to mourn in losing outer garments? My mind is as light as the wind, my thought as calm as clouds. That is the power of letting go." 368. A monk practicing loving-kindness and compassion, steadfast in faith in the Buddha's teaching, realizes the realm of tranquility and the bliss of peaceful conduct. A practitioner not only upholds precepts, meditates, and studies the Dhamma, but also makes compassion the foundation. A compassionate monk cares for all beings without discrimination or condition. With firm faith in the true Dhamma, they gradually attain inner tranquility, reaching the quiet state the Buddha called serenity, undisturbed, unfeigned, free from suffering. Like an elder monk living in a remote temple, each morning he chants and then goes door to door for alms, not out of hunger, but to plant the seed of generosity in others. Along the way, he rescues insects from the path and helps children across the road. He never preaches, yet his compassion is the most living sermon. 369. Monk, this body-mind is a raft not easily lightened. Uproot greed, destroy hatred, and you will certainly attain nibbana. The Buddha likens body and mind to a boat. If it fills with water, it cannot travel far. Likewise, if the mind is filled with defilements, greed, and anger, it cannot smoothly cross suffering. The practitioner must bail out water daily, that is, release attachments, abandon greed, and cleanse away anger. Like a novice who each evening writes down 3 clinging points and then contemplates dissolving them one by one. One day he said, "I feel lighter now, as if the raft is empty of water." That is the first step to true freedom. 370. Contemplate the 5 defilements dormant, practice the 5 trainings, master the 5 supreme qualities. A monk who severs the 5 binds is worthy of transcending the stream. This verse recalls multiple layers of practice. Cutting off the 5 hindrances: sensual desire, ill will, sluggishness and drowsiness, restlessness and worry, doubt. Abandoning the 5 lower fetters: self-identity view, doubt, attachment to rites and rituals, sensual craving, ill will. Cultivating the 5 spiritual faculties: faith, energy, mindfulness, concentration, wisdom. severing the 5 higher fetters, craving for fine material existence, craving for immaterial existence, conceit, restlessness, ignorance. Whoever accomplishes this is rightly called one who has crossed the flood, liberated from sasra. For example, a practitioner who goes beyond mere chanting or sitting in meditation but daily investigates the roots of the heart, cuts each bind, shatters each layer of ignorance. That person moves against the current of mundane life yet harmoniously with the current of the Dhamma and will finally reach the far shore. 371. Monk, practice meditation. Do not let the mind run loose or be swept away by craving. Do not indulge in sensual pleasure. Being carried away is like swallowing red-hot iron and being burned. Complaining of suffering then is useless. The Buddha's warning is strong. Meditation is not remote but vital to rescue the mind. If one lets the mind wander after sensual delight, it is like swallowing a hot iron ball and burning oneself. When pain comes, lamenting is of no use. Like a young student who, seeking pleasure, abandoned practice and later suffered personal and professional failures, falling into depression. A teacher gently told him, "You forgot to cultivate mindfulness and lack meditation, so you have no wisdom to navigate the waves." That one admonition awakened him. 372. Without meditation, no wisdom. Without wisdom, no meditation. The one with both meditation and wisdom draws near nibbana. This verse is like a golden key. Meditation is the lamp. Wisdom is its light. Without meditation, wisdom cannot arise. Without wisdom, meditation risks delusion. The two are wings that carry the practitioner across the sea of suffering. Like one who only recites text without reflection will err. One who only meditates without studying the Dhamma may fall into wrong views. But when one both deeply meditates and contemplates the scriptures, wisdom shines like the full moon upon a tranquil lake. 373. Entering the empty dwelling, the monk's mind is calm and serene, enjoying superhuman bliss through pure contemplation of the true Dhamma. The Buddha refers to genuine joy. The empty dwelling is the state free of defilements. When the monk's mind is tranquil, unmoved, and free from craving, that bliss is unlike any worldly pleasure. It is a superhuman joy surpassing all 5 sensual pleasures. Like a monk meditating in a cave with no phone, no comforts, no companions, yet his face radiates because his mind is still as a glassy pond. That is a state the world cannot fathom but which practitioners yearn to attain. 361. Guarding a wholesome body, guarding wholesome speech, guarding wholesome mind, protecting all these frees one from every suffering. Here the Buddha extends from the first 4 sense faculties to the 3 great practices of body, speech, and mind. He teaches, guard the body by refraining from all harmful actions. Guard speech by not lying, not using divisive words, and not uttering harsh or frivolous talk. Guard the mind by not allowing it to wander after greed, anger, or delusion. If one maintains all 3, the monk walks the path of purity, neither swayed by the external world nor disturbed internally. An elder once said, "If you uphold these 3 each day, you have already traversed half the road to liberation." Indeed, whoever preserves even these small measures, body at peace, speech calm, mind clear, their steps become as light as clouds and their hearts as cool as a spring, no suffering can cling to them. 362. One who restrains hands and feet, restrains speech, and restrains mind, who delights in inner meditation, lives alone contentedly, and knows sufficiency, such a one is truly worthy of the monk's name. A monk not only upholds the 3 practices but also curbs bodily conduct, verbal conduct, and mental conduct. Restraining hands and feet means walking, standing, lying, and sitting with mindfulness. Restraining speech means not letting the mouth draw the mind into dispute. Restraining mind means reflecting and committing to wholesome thoughts. One who rejoices in meditation, lives alone without sadness, and knows just enough in every meal and every robe. This is one worthy of being called a monk. Like a young meditator who, instead of requesting many delicacies, takes only sufficient rice and vegetables. After eating, he sits beneath a tree in meditation. To the world he seems to possess nothing, yet in his heart he holds boundless serenity. That is the highest treasure. 363. A monk restrains the tongue, speaks appropriately, and does not boast when teaching the Dhamma. His words are gentle and sweet. The Buddha clarifies speech karma. The practitioner should speak not only truthfully but also fittingly, neither loudly to overpower nor arrogantly to display superiority. When teaching, speech must be gentle, apt, and pleasing to hear. Some learned ones speak with pride, alienating listeners. Others speak simply, but each word carries heartfelt compassion, touching the listener deeply. Like the young nun in my village, whenever she taught lay people, she used no lofty terms, only life stories and the Buddhist teachings, yet everyone nodded and shed tears because her words came from genuine compassion and experience. 364. A monk who loves the Dhamma, cherishes the Dhamma, contemplates the Dhamma, and clings to the true Dhamma never abandons it. This verse describes the mind that treasures the Dhamma. The practitioner not only studies the Dhamma intellectually but lives it wholeheartedly. They adore the Buddhist teachings, ponder each verse and rule, and never let their mind stray from the true Dhamma, whether in daily duties or during quiet meditation. For example, a young bhikkhu who each night before sleep rereads several verses of the Dhammapada, then sits in stillness reflecting on each line. Even on cold, rainy nights, he persists, for to him the Buddha's words are not mere letters but light in the darkness of ignorance. 365. Do not despise what you have, nor envy what others attain. A monk who scorns peers cannot achieve deep meditation. This verse warns against envy. The practitioner must cultivate contentment and appreciate one's own accomplishments. If one despises one's own practice and envies others' attainments, positions, or fame, the mind becomes unsettled. An unsettled mind cannot enter deep meditation, cannot grow still, cannot perceive its true nature. For example, a long-practicing monk sees another beloved by all and feels jealousy. Whenever chanting his mind stirs, whenever meditating his heart is restless. In the end, despite many years of practice, he remains mediocre. His own envy became his greatest obstacle. 366. A monk of few possessions yet content, who does not despise what he has, lives in purity without laziness. Such one is praised by the Devis and commended by the Buddha for cherishing small gains. Even a little peace or a little mindfulness should not be underestimated, for every small step contributes to the long journey. One who lives in purity and practices diligently without sloth, though unassuming, is revered by celestial beings. Like steady rain filling a pot over time, consistent, diligent practice deepens merit like an ocean. 367. Completely abandoning attachment to name and form, not clinging to self or possessions, free from attachment and sorrow, truly worthy of the title monk. This verse goes to the heart of non-self. The practitioner must relinquish fixation on self and mind, no longer seeing reputation as self, no longer regarding the body as owned. When such attachments vanish, so too do sorrows. Such a one is truly deserving of the monk's name, a mendicant of truth walking the right path. Once a monk lost all his robes while traveling. His companion offered comfort, but the monk only smiled and said, "This body was never truly mine, so what is there to mourn in losing outer garments? My mind is as light as the wind, my thought as calm as clouds, that is the power of letting go." 368. A monk practicing loving kindness and compassion, steadfast in faith in the Buddhist teaching, realizes the realm of serenity and the bliss of peaceful conduct. A true practitioner not only upholds precepts, meditates, and studies the Dhamma but also makes compassion the foundation. A compassionate monk cares for all beings without discrimination or condition. With firm faith in the true Dhamma, they gradually attain inner serenity, reaching the tranquil state the Buddha called calm, undisturbed, genuine, free from suffering. Like an elder monk living in a remote temple, each morning he chants and then goes door to door for alms, not out of hunger but to sow the seed of generosity in others. Along the way he rescues insects from the path and helps children cross the road. He never preaches, yet his compassion is the most vibrant sermon. 369. Monk, this body-mind is a raft not easily lightened. Uproot greed, destroy hatred, and you will certainly attain nibbana. The Buddha likens body and mind to a vessel. If it fills with water, it cannot travel far. Likewise, if the mind is filled with defilements, greed, and anger, it cannot smoothly cross suffering. The practitioner must bail out water daily, that is, release attachments, abandon greed, and cleanse away anger. Like a novice who each evening writes down 3 clinging points and then contemplates dissolving them one by one. One day he said, "I feel lighter now, as if the raft is empty of water." That is the first step to true freedom. 370. Contemplate the 5 forsaken, practice the 5 trainings, master the 5 supreme qualities. A monk who severs the 5 fetters is worthy of transcending the current. This verse recalls multiple layers of practice. Cutting off the 5 hindrances: sensual desire, ill will, sloth and torpor, restlessness and worry, doubt. Abandoning the 5 lower fetters: self-identity, doubt, attachment to rites and rituals, sensual craving, ill will. Cultivating the 5 spiritual faculties: faith, energy, mindfulness, concentration, wisdom. Severing the 5 higher fetters: craving for form existence, craving for formless existence, conceit, restlessness, ignorance. Whoever accomplishes this is rightly called one who has crossed the flood, liberated from sasra. For example, a practitioner who goes beyond mere chanting or meditation but daily investigates the roots of the heart, cuts each fetter, shatters each layer of ignorance. That person moves against the current of mundane life yet harmoniously with the current of the Dhamma and will finally reach the far shore. 371. Monk, practice meditation. Do not let the mind run loose or be swept away by craving. Do not indulge in sensual pleasure. Being carried away is like swallowing red-hot iron and being burned. Lamenting later is useless. The Buddha's warning is strong. Meditation is not remote but vital to rescue the mind. If one lets the mind wander after sensual delight, it is like swallowing a hot iron ball and burning oneself. When pain comes, lamentation is futile. Like a young student who, seeking pleasure, abandoned practice and later suffered failures, falling into despair. A teacher gently told him, "You forgot mindfulness and lack meditation, so you have no wisdom to navigate the waves." That admonition awakened him. 372. Without meditation, no wisdom. Without wisdom, no meditation. The one with both meditation and wisdom draws near nibbana. This verse is like a golden key. Meditation is the lamp. Wisdom is its light. Without meditation, wisdom cannot arise. Without wisdom, meditation risks delusion. The two are wings that carry the practitioner across the sea of suffering. Like one who only recites scriptures without reflection will err. One who only meditates without studying the Dhamma may fall into wrong views. But when one both deeply meditates and contemplates the scriptures, wisdom shines like the full moon on a still lake. 373. Entering the empty dwelling, the monk's mind is calm and serene, enjoying superhuman bliss through pure contemplation of the true Dhamma. The Buddha refers to genuine joy. The empty dwelling is the state free of defilements. When the monk's mind is tranquil, unmoved, and free from craving, that bliss is unlike any worldly pleasure. It is a superhuman joy surpassing all 5 sensual pleasures. Like a monk meditating in a cave with no phone, no comforts, no companions, yet his face radiates because his mind is still as a glassy pond. That is a state the world cannot fathom but which practitioners yearn to attain. 374. One who constantly contemplates the arising and passing away of the aggregates experiences joy that only the liberated can know. This is a profound reminder of mindfulness. The monk always remains aware, clearly noting the birth and death of form, feeling, perception, formations, and consciousness. These aggregates are ever-changing. They arise and vanish like waves on the ocean. Seeing this, the practitioner no longer clings. Without clinging, one rejoices in freedom. Like a meditator who notes each in and out breath, each sensation arising and fading, each thought arising and dissolving, each recognition brings a gentle smile, tasting a peace that only those who transcend death and self-view truly understand. 375. A monk of wisdom returns to the fundamentals, safeguards the faculties, practices moderation, upholds the basic precepts regularly, associates with virtuous companions, and lives with purity and diligence. This verse serves as a practical guide. A wise monk focuses on essentials, observing precepts, protecting the senses, exercising restraint in food, choosing wholesome friends, and living mindfully without laziness. No need for grand achievements. Maintain these simple foundations and the path stands firm like a cedar in the wind. Like an elder nun in the mountains, each day she sweeps the courtyard, cooks, chants, and meditates. She goes nowhere far, teaches no lofty doctrines, yet her presence brings peace to all who visit because wisdom, virtue, and tranquility shine forth naturally. 376. Skillful in social conduct, friendly in demeanor, and graceful in gesture, thus one enjoys much joy and eradicates all suffering. This verse speaks of etiquette and everyday conduct. A monk must guard not only mind and speech but also behavior and interaction. Friendly engagement and dignified behavior naturally bring joy. Such a person not only finds personal peace but also sows tranquility in others. From this, suffering gradually dissipates. For example, a fellow practitioner may speak little, but with gentle eyes, light footsteps, and perfectly timed words, anyone near them feels a cooling calm. No grand actions needed. Daily small acts pave the way to end suffering. Like the night-blooming jasmine that lets its petals fall when spent, so must the monk release greed, hatred, and delusion. The final image here is beautiful, a vasy flower shedding its petals at the end, without clinging or regret. The monk, too, when he grasps impermanence, lets go of greed, hatred, and delusion as naturally as petals falling, no force needed. Understanding alone dissolves all attachments. Like a teacher nearing Parinibbana who simply says, "I depart like a leaf falling in season, without fear or longing." This is one who has learned the lesson of the flower, knowing both duty and the time to let go. 377. Pure in body, serene in speech, adept in meditation, monk, abandon worldly things. You are worthy of the title stillness. This verse is the portrait of an ideal monk. A pure body commits no wrong. Serene speech causes no harm. A meditative mind stands firm, unshaken when body, speech, and mind are all pure. Such a one is unbound by material things, truly at peace amidst impermanence. Like an aged meditation master living to 100, no phone, no money, no attachment to fame or gain. Each step is a mindful step, each word is compassion. Observing him, one needs no teaching to be inspired to practice. 378. Criticize yourself, examine yourself, monk, guard yourself with mindfulness and dwell in joy. This verse is practical and relatable. The practitioner need not judge others but must turn inward daily. Ask, did I harbor anger today? Did I speak unwholesome words? Such self-examination is the lamp illuminating the path. Thus, the monk lives in mindfulness and dwells in joy. Like a temple sweeper who, without being told, picks up the broom each morning not for the sake of others but because of a personal love for cleanliness. Similarly, one practices not for others but to cleanse one's own heart of dust. 379. Rely on yourself alone, proceed on your own, so discipline yourself like one with a well-trained steed. This is profound teaching on self-reliance in the path. No one can practice for you. Even with the Buddha's compassion, he cannot walk your path for you. Each person is master of the way they choose, so they must train their own mind, like a trainer with a gentle horse, patient, steady, never abandoning hope. A teacher once said, "If you seek peace, train your mind as you would a young horse, neither whip nor slacken the reins." Your mind is not an enemy but a friend, to be guided with love and patience. 380. A monk filled with joy and unwavering faith in the Buddha's teaching realizes the realm of stillness. These qualities, serenity and blissful conduct, depict a practitioner with abundant inner energy, one who truly rejoices not because of novelty but because faith in the Dhamma stands firm. They no longer doubt or waver, they need nothing beyond the path, and this inner joy leads them to serenity. For example, a lay practitioner living in a humble bamboo hut, yet each morning chanting, reciting the Buddha's name, and meditating, always greeting others with a gentle smile. They possess nothing but a heart full of the Dhamma, and that brings deep happiness even the wealthy seldom attain. 381. A young monk who diligently practices the Buddha's teaching illuminates the world like the moon breaking through clouds. The final verse of this chapter is an inspiring call. One need not wait until old age to begin practice. The young, if they have faith and diligent study of the Buddha's teaching, can likewise become lights for the world. Like the moon that emerges from clouds to shine across the sky. A 15-year-old novice each morning rises before the assembly to chant. His recitation is clear, his mind unshaken by youth. Yet the radiance of his practice moves many grown adults, for the Dhamma does not wait for age, it waits only for an open heart. 382. O Brahman, strive diligently, sever the currents, abandon sensual pleasures, and know the path of cessation. You are one of non-action. The Buddha calls one toward liberation. One must strive to end the cycle of rebirth. He who sees clearly the conditioned nature of all phenomena touches non-action, that is, nibbana. 383. By constant practice of the two methods one reaches the far shore. A wise Brahmin, all fetters are severed. The two methods are meditation and wisdom. One who abides continually in these two will transcend suffering. The perfected one, having destroyed all mental fetters, is truly called a Brahmin. 384. Neither the shore nor the other, both shores are free of suffering and fetters. I call a Brahmin one who transcends both extremes, not clinging to this life nor longing for the next. One who has left behind all attachments, such a mind is free of suffering. 385. Practice meditation, remain detached, engage only in tasks without defilement. Having reached the supreme goal, I call you a Brahmin, one who has removed all defilements. The work of practice completed, living in meditation apart from the world, you are one who has arrived at the shore of awakening. 386. As the sun shines by day and the moon by night, so the Buddha's penetrating wisdom glows ever bright, meditation shines, and insight radiates like a brilliant gem. The Buddha's light eclipses all worldly lights, for his wisdom illumines even when the eye cannot see it. 387. One who eradicates evil is called wise. Pure conduct marks a monk. One who has cleansed defilements through self-effort is rightly called ordained. It is not the title, but the practice, abandoning evil, living purely, transcending mental defilement, that makes one a true sage. 388. Do not strike back at wisdom. How foolish to strike wisdom back. Retaliation is even more wrong. The truly practiced one never retaliates. Even if harmed, the wrongdoer is in fault, yet one who retaliates is even more at fault. 390. Without hatred fulfilling every duty, upholding precepts without greed, mastering the body, truly I call such one a Brahmin. Whoever keeps pure precepts, holds no hatred, lives free of attachment, and greets death serenely, that is a genuine Brahmin. 391. For such a Brahmin there is no small benefit. When the mind no longer clings, harm is halted. Only then does suffering truly cease. The wise know how to stop at the mind. When mind has no attachment and no anger, suffering ends. 392. With regard to body, speech, and mind, no evil deeds are done. These three practices are guarded. I call one who keeps these three pure a true practitioner indeed. 393. From one who knows the true Dhamma, whom the enlightened one teaches, pay homage as you would to wisdom itself, like one honoring sacred fire. The wise always revere their Dhamma teacher as one respects the sacred flame. Those seeking the path should honor the Dhamma likewise. 394. One is not called a Brahmin because of hair coils, lineage, or birth. Only one who truly lives in purity, deceiving neither self nor others, merits the title Brahmin. 395. Foolish is the one who braids hair with goatskin, inner turmoil hidden by polished exterior. Monastic robes alone signify nothing. If the mind remains full of anger, envy, and delusion, even rough cloth cannot liberate one. 396. I call Brahmin one who wears rags, is lean and vain, lives alone in the forest meditating, one who seeks no fame or gain but devotes himself solely to practice. Such a recluse is truly venerable. 397. I do not call one Brahmin merely for birthplace or mother's womb. Only one free of turmoil is called Brahmin. Born in Brahmin lineage yet still burdened by defilement carries only a name. One free of all defilement is the true sage. 398. One who severs all fetters, who fears nothing, who clings to nothing, I call that one a Brahmin. Having cut the bonds of sasra, clinging and fear gone, that one is self-liberated. 399. Cast off the belt, the bridle, the ropes, and all possessions. Discard the shining bolt of attachment. I call that one a Brahmin. These girdles, bridles, and leashes symbolize greed, clinging, and delusion. The wise let go of all. 400. No ill will, enduring insult and harm, patience is one's strength. I call that one a Brahmin. True forbearance is not weakness but silent power. One who endures abuse and abuse of body without anger truly possesses strength. 401. Unburdened by hatred, upholding precepts without greed, mastering the body, such one I call a Brahmin. 402. Like water off a lotus leaf, like a mustard seed on a needle, unstained by sensual craving, I call that one a Brahmin. 403. Who sees that life is impermanent without any doubt, attaining the deathless realm, I call that one a Brahmin. 404. Freed from both good and evil, without sorrow, without notions of pure or impure, without fear or bondage, I call that one a Brahmin. 405. Like the moon freed from clouds, shining undisturbed, one who escapes the net of sensual desire, I call that one a Brahmin. 406. Crossing the perilous path of birth and death without sorrow, severing the yoke and freeing from defilements, I call that one a Brahmin. 407. One who abandons all bonds, rejoices in detachment, is without sorrow, letting go of every tie, I call that one a Brahmin. 408. One who leaves sensual desire and anger behind like a droplet on a lotus leaf, unattached, I call that one a Brahmin. 409. One who transcends both human and heavenly realms, free of attachment, with no wish for life or death, I call that one a Brahmin. 410. One who abandons all sensual pleasures, lives a life of sufficiency, is not clinging to this body, I call that one a Brahmin. 411. One who understands the Dhamma by one's own insight, not by another's teaching, with mind quietly awakened, I call that one a Brahmin. 412. One who clings to nothing, inside or out, above or below, owns nothing, I call that one a Brahmin. 413. One who is wise, courageous, attains the unfailing fruits, and realizes all phenomena, I call that one a Brahmin. For 14, one who remembers past lives, sees clearly the end of birth and death, never to be reborn. I call that one a Brahmin. For 15, one who cuts off desire, leaves home to live as renunciate, having ended all craving. I call that one a Brahmin. For 16, whoever cuts off attachment in this life and leaves home to live as a renunciant, whose remaining attachment is completely severed, I call that one a Brahmin. Unlike the previous verse, here attachment runs deeper. Desire is that subtle ignorance clinging to self into existence. That person has uprooted it entirely, no longer bound by love or clinging, only unconditional compassion remains. For 17, casting off the bonds of humanity, transcending the fetters of the heavenly realms, liberated from every constraint, I call that one a Brahmin. Not only freed from this world, but also escaped the heavenly spheres of great merit. The heavens still lie within the cycle of birth and death. True liberation means no realm, however beautiful, can hold you captive. For 18, abandoning both liking and disliking, cooled and extinguished of rebirth's fuel, a hero triumphant conquering all worlds. I call that one a Brahmin. That is someone who neither clings to desire nor harbors aversion. The mind flows cool like a mountain stream and has no cause for rebirth. Such a person is truly heroic, not by fighting external enemies but by overcoming oneself, prevailing over the realm of desire, the realm of form, and even the subtlest consciousness. For 19, whoever perfectly understands birth and death, remains uncontaminated by beings, skillfully transcends them with clarity and true awakening, I call that one a Brahmin. That person not only escapes but perceives clearly the cycle of existence for all beings, sees why some suffer and some rejoice, knows karma, conditions, and results, yet is not drawn in but quietly feels compassion. True awakening need not be displayed yet shines like the sun rising in the east. For 20, to those of the heavenly hosts that person is equal to Kanataba. No one knows where that one will be reborn. An arahant has exhausted all defilements. Neither gods nor immortals can ascertain where that person will go, for they no longer take rebirth. Like a bird vanishing into the sky without a trace, they leave the cycle of existence in silence. For 21, whoever transcends past and future and owns nothing, having no possessions, does not grasp, I call that one a Brahmin. They cling to nothing of the past, are not entangled in the present, and yearn for no future. They no longer say, "This is mine." Freedom resides not only in the body but in every stream of thought. For 22, a sovereign supreme among jewels, a mighty hero, uncontaminated victor, one cleansed and awakened, I call that one a Brahmin. These are sublime qualities, both powerful and pure, yet humble. This person has cleansed every impurity and remains unstained amid the world. They are the great hero, the true Brahmin in this world. For 23, whoever knows lifetimes past and glimpses heavenly realms and subhuman abodes, attains the end of birth and death, perfects transcendent wisdom, immunity complete in the path, I call that one a Brahmin. This one possesses transcendent insight, sees the cycles of rebirth past and future, yet surpasses them all. No more birth, no more death. Self-perfected in every awakening, solitary yet majestic like a lion in the forest. That is the silent sage, the fully realized Brahmin. The brief verses we have traversed form more than a scripture. They form a map of living not meant for memorization by mind, but for assimilation by heart. Each line flashes clarity into confusion. Some verses warn, some whisper the Buddha's voice beneath the silent tree, some are tears that shatter ignorance amid stillness. From the verses on mind, thought, conduct, and restraint to those profound on right view, meditation, and wisdom, ending with the image of the Brahmin who has crossed all shores and bonds. These 423 teachings of the Buddha point always inward. No one outside causes suffering. Our own restless grasping, clinging, desire, and aversion are the causes, and so too are mindfulness, letting go, and insight the path out of suffering. The Dhammapada is not to be recited by rote or used for debate, but to illuminate each day's practice. Whenever anger arises, recall the verse on anger. Whenever attachment entangles, recall the verse on attachment. Whenever you lose your way, recall the Buddha's compassionate gaze. No judgment, no reproach, simply a gentle reminder. Turn within, see yourself, awaken. And if you ask why among myriad scriptures the Dhammapada resonates so far and wide, perhaps it is because each verse is brief yet contains a path. Each word is light yet can transform the weight of one's karma. Thank you for journeying with us from verse 1 to the last, not to learn something new, but to remember what you already know. The path lies not afar but in each breath, each moment of awareness, each return to mind. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahamata. May the light of the true teaching always guide each of us.